breaking tonight. The King and Queen will be arriving in DC in just a couple of weeks. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker has all the details hot off the press. Cameron.
I do indeed, Bev. And could King Charles be Sir Keir Starmer's last chance to mend relations with Trump and the United Kingdom? Also, a royal source confirms to me why the King and Queen will not be meeting with survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. More details very shortly.
Thank you, Cameron. We'll be talking to you in just a little while. Also tonight, a GBNews exclusive. There may be hope for the special relationship after all.
The American and British partnership has continued, has persisted obviously for a long time, will continue.
That was Morgan Ortagus, and a few people know Middle Eastern diplomacy as well as her. Find out what she thinks is going to make your fuel bill eventually go down. And what does she think about Starmer's plan to control the Strait once the war is over?
Honestly, it was sort of a shrug of the shoulders, right? And it's nice that countries are thinking about what to do when the war is over, when we've done the tough work.
Stay tuned for that very frank interview with Morgan Ortagus, also tonight.
We are underprepared, we're underinsured, we're under attack, we're not safe. And the current conflict in the Middle East has to be a route we
don't have nightmares, but those are the chilling words from former NATO chief Lord George Robertson. Do you think these kind of people right now are currently warmongering, or is the UK extremely vulnerable? I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Very warm welcome to you, and a warm welcome to my panel this evening. Not that we need a warm welcome, Reem Ibrahim and Mark Albert, because it's about 100 degrees outside that door today.
It's very warm and very humid.
It's lovely though, isn't it?
I'm working on my suntan.
Somebody who is definitely not working on their suntan, Paul Cox. Down the line in London, GBNews contributor and comedian. Paul, I get to spend a whole 3 hours with you. Lucky me.
Lucky me too. God, you'll never guess who they had here. They had an actual Australian fill in for you. It was terrible, Bev. Welcome back.
What, an Australian doing a British news channel about America? That's how we roll with GB News, right, Paul? You are at least consistent. OK, moving on to our breaking news this evening. Key details have been revealed about the King's visit to America. Obviously, things could be a little awkward, given that the King's host is currently feuding with the King's Prime Minister. GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker has all the details for us. Cameron, what do we know?
Well, Bev, we got lots of juicy details this afternoon, didn't we? And of course, the whole point of King Charles going is to celebrate 250 years since American independence. But of course, there's a big elephant in the room, and that is that President Trump has been feuding a lot, as you're alluding to there, with Sir Keir Starmer. But more than that, he also likened some of our warships to toys compared to the United States warships. Bearing in mind, of course, King Charles is head of the armed forces within the United Kingdom. The question is, does that actually matter? Because King Charles is above politics, and President Trump, as you know, adores the royal family. And this could potentially be one of Sir Keir Starmer's last chance to really kind of shore up relations or repair relations between the United Kingdom and the United States when it comes with President Trump, by using the soft power of King Charles and Queen Camilla when they go across to the United States in just a couple of weeks' time. A Foreign Office spokesperson told me this afternoon that we are close allies. We do disagree on things, but that doesn't detract from the value that both sides get from this relationship, referring to the UK-US special relationship, and have done over many decades. And I think that's the key point here. I think from speaking to sources this afternoon, it doesn't really matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter who's in 10 Downing Street when it comes to the UK-US special relations. This is about shoring up the two countries over that shared history and celebrating that shared history during that 250th anniversary of Confederation year that we're in now in 2026. And I think that is why Sir Keir Starmer sees this as so important, to send the King across to the US. And, you know, it's not every day that Kemi Badenoch and Sir Keir Starmer agree, but they agree on this, that the King should be going to the US. That is exactly what's happening.
And now, obviously, you will be here as well, Cameron. I'm making up a spare bed for you. Do let me know what you want me to get in the fridge for your breakfast, love. But what details, Cameron, can we give about what the King and the Queen will be doing? Because I know some of it we have to still be a little careful about, but what can we tell the public?
So, we know the King and Queen will start off their visits in Washington, D.C. There'll be an official welcome at the airport, as there always is with these kind of things. There's going to be an afternoon tea with President Trump and First Lady Melania. There'll be a bit of glitz and glam at the White House with a state dinner, which hopefully both you and I will get to observe in person, Bev, inside the White House. There's also going to be an event in Washington, D.C. when it comes to commemorating veterans at the Arlington Cemetery. But in New York, they're going to be visiting the memorial, the King and Queen, of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. There's going to be a literary reception that the Queen is going to be attending as well. And also, the King and Queen will be off to Virginia, a rural part of Virginia, to celebrate with the local communities there the 250th anniversary of the Confederation. So quite a lot to get through. I think there's also some kind of diplomatic trading reception that's taking place in New York City. Is Sadiq Khan going to turn up? Well, let's wait and see.
Well, you just read my mind, Cameron. You stole my next question, because I've got a feeling. I mean, look, why is Charles going to New York, right? We've got this new deeply far-left socialist mayor in Mamdani just being elected in New York. No doubt he's on the blower to Sadiq Khan every 5 minutes, I would imagine. I don't know, but I think they would make very close friends, the two of them. Do we think, Cameron, that this is like a socialist ambush of President Trump? And what I mean by that is he might have King Charles cozying up to Mamdani and Sadiq Khan in New York, and that would be playing politics and actually playing with President Trump's mind as well. Do you see it like that?
Well, I don't think President Trump would take too kindly to seeing an image of the King with Mamdani and Sadiq Khan. If he does go, of course, it's not been confirmed to this reception that's happening in New York. Nonetheless, I think that does show the soft power of King Charles, because it doesn't matter who the politician is, whether it's Mamdani, whether it's President Trump, whether it's Sadiq Khan. His role is the soft power to bring people into a room and get people talking. And there aren't many people in the world who can one day cozy up to President Trump at a state dinner and then the next day host or at least attend a reception celebrating UK and US trading relationships in one of the greatest cities in the world, New York City, bringing people across from London, another great city in the world, to trade. So I don't think it really is going to create an issue when it comes to King Charles' soft power play and shoring up that relationship between President Trump and the United Kingdom. I think it would be tricky to see who kind of the civil servants were to put that guest list together. I think it is going to be a really challenging one for them. As long as there's Republicans in the room as well, I don't think it's going to be a socialist ambush.
Given how much President Trump despises Sadiq Khan, I mean, that is not an exaggeration. On multiple, it'll take any occasion, won't he? Any opportunity to say how much he dislikes Sadiq Khan. And I get it, that blimp baby Trump, that big balloon that he flew over London, Trump has never forgotten that. He's never forgiven him for that. I think Sadiq Khan will be doing everything he can behind the scenes to make sure that there is a photo opportunity with him and King Charles during the week that they are here, just because he will take such satisfaction in doing that to President Trump. But anyway, maybe I'm just super cynical. Cameron, there are a few bars in this town, my friend, that are going to have your and my name on it week after next, or whenever it is. I don't know what day it is. So I can't wait to have you here, Cameron, in DC. We will all be there, the GB News team, bringing every moment for our viewers at home. Thank you so much, Cameron. Speak to you very soon. Right, let me know what you think at home. GBNews.com/your say. Let me ask my panel here. Mark Albert, let me come to you. What does King Charles mean to you as an American? Does it matter that he's coming here? What will his impact be?
I do think it matters. I think it matters a great deal. You know, he is the head of state, but he's also the descendant of the monarch, where the U.S. split from Britain 250 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it absolutely matters. And I think that most Americans will be very, very pleased that the king is coming to mark the 250th anniversary. You know, we talked about the special relationship, talked about the very close allyship between both countries for 2 centuries now. And I think it will mean a great deal. You're going to see his picture splashed on every major newspaper in America when he's here on the 27th or the 28th. So I think it is a very, very big deal, and I think Americans will recognize that.
Yeah, Reem, are you looking forward to it?
I'm very excited. It feels like a bit of Britain is coming back, and everybody's asking me what I think about it, which is great in the office. Last week I went to go and see 1776, the musical, so this is me attempting to integrate into American culture as a new immigrant, and it's so interesting learning about the way in which Americans view the founding and the way in which they view the ideas. You know, America is an idea. It's an idea that came to light, and my God, it's been so successful. And so it's so wonderful to be able to see the British head of state, the irony of the British head of state now, 250 years later, celebrating that American independence.
Yeah. And Queen Camilla is going to be here as well. Paul Cox down the line. There's no doubt this will be the front page of every single newspaper all around the world. As Mark said, every news bulletin is going to be leading with this. But is it going to be a little awkward, given that the temperature between Trump and Starmer is, to say the least, pretty cool right now?
No, I don't think so, actually. I think the relationship between our king and Trump is a good one. They were pen pals in the intermediate years between Trump's presidency. And so what? You know, prime ministers come and go. This one's going to go soon, and when he does, he'll soon be forgotten. So double fingers crossed from Reem there. But look, no, I think this is very, very important. Unlike the king, I'm still not quite over losing the War of Independence. So it is good that he goes there to celebrate 200 years. It's important that we maintain that relationship between the US and the UK. You know, we're brothers and sisters in arms. We really, really are. The American idea, the American project is a very important one that we should all support in the West, and the UK should be no different there.
Mark, will President Trump manage to behave himself, do you think? Because we know, above all else, and one of the best qualities for me with President Trump is that he always tackles the elephant in the room. He literally can't help himself. A bit like the other day when he had the Japanese Prime Minister and he talked about, you know, somebody surprising them in the press conference, and he said, don't talk to her about surprises, we'll talk about Pearl Harbor. I love the fact that he will tackle it, and I do wonder whether he will publicly say something about Starmer to King Charles. That could be a highlight of the trip.
Well, that's a great question. I actually think, though, that President Trump has a very deep admiration for the royal family. And I was just Googling a little bit here. He has called the king a friend of mine. I have a great relationship with King Charles. I've known him a long time, just as Paul said. They've written together. President Trump has said he's a wonderful and brave man. So I actually wonder whether that elephant will ever enter the room, maybe in private, but I think in public, he is going to continue his affection for the king.
Yeah. And what do you think about this visit to New York, Reem? Why is Charles going to New York?
Well, it's interesting, I think, to be able to visit the 9/11 memorial and be able to understand the sort of aspect of that. Of course, it was extraordinarily devastating, and I think lots of people still remember what happened. And I think it's interesting from a signal perspective, right? This was, you know, 9/11 was a moment where the entire world came together and supported one another. The UK supported the Americans, and I think in some respect, it's a symbol. It's a symbol that no matter what happens, no matter what goes on with the Iran war, no matter what goes on next year, we will always and always will be very, very special.
Yeah.
Well, and 67 British citizens died in 9/11.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Right, thank you all for kicking us off there. Let me know your thoughts at home. GBNews.com/your say. I'm going to have a look at those messages, but still to come on The Late Show Live.
The evidence is with the Iranian regime themselves. They openly bragged in the negotiations that they were at the 60% enrichment level. They've made it clear that their red line, that they are all actually, both literally and figuratively, willing to die on a hill for a nuclear weapon.
We'll get part one of my interview with Morgan Ortagus earlier today, and few people know Middle Eastern diplomacy as well as she does. She's given a fierce defence of the Iran war and talked a little bit about how it might affect the UK. That's next. This is The Late Show Live with Bev only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There is so much noise around Iran at the moment, of course, and it's hard to know who brings genuine expertise to this topic. But today I was able to speak to one woman, Morgan Ortagus, who was at the forefront of Middle East diplomacy, particularly during Trump's first term in office. And here is what she told me. Morgan, thank you so much for joining me on The Late Show Live. Realistically, how far away are we now from a negotiation being finalised in Iran?
It's hard to predict what a finalized negotiation will be, but my understanding from the White House is that the negotiations remain ongoing. This is actually a pattern, I think, of President Trump, both in his first term and in his second term. In any situation, he's always going to extend the hand of diplomacy. He's always going to try to find a peaceful resolution. But unlike past presidents, he will show that he's willing to use American military might and American force if they can't get a deal at the negotiating table. So that's why you saw in the first year of the Trump administration, when I was still in as an active official, the president put a clear time constraint on the Iranian negotiations. The first ones, we had a series of them in Oman before the June bombings of last year. And the president put like I think it was a 60-day time constraint at the time. I don't think the Iranians thought he was serious. They thought that they would do what they have done for the past 47 years, but especially for the past several administrations, which is to drag out negotiations, to bluster, to get more time, and drag and drag and drag. And that's just not a negotiation tactic that is tenable for this president or his team.
And in terms of the questions that I get asked on The Late Show, when people come into the studio and they aren't supportive of the action in Iran, the big question they often ask is, what was the evidence that Iran had nuclear capabilities? What was the evidence that they were close to being able to create a weaponry that could affect the West significantly? Do you know what that evidence is, Morgan?
I don't think you have to listen to the United States, the United Nations, or even the P3, the UK, France, Germany, that were all a part of this. We've all laid out documentation for years. I mean, you have nuclear watchdogs who are doing it, but forget all of that. Forget all of the international bodies in all the countries. The evidence is with the Iranian regime themselves. They openly bragged in the negotiations that they were at the 60% enrichment level. They've made it clear that their red line, that they are all actually both literally and figuratively willing to die on a hill for a nuclear weapon. So you don't need to believe me. You just need to believe the Iranian regime themselves.
Isn't the challenge, though, for President Trump, and we're seeing this in the way that this is being played out by the media, and I know that the media is very rarely supportive of the president anyway, and this situation is no different. But we're seeing that actually the accusation that he didn't know what he was getting into, that he was forced into this situation by Israel, that there's no clear off-ramp. The criticisms are increasing as the clock is ticking to what was the deadline that he put in the sand of hopefully 4 to 6 weeks of action.
Listen, I think if you look at President Trump and his record for decades, you could go back to the 90s when he was talking about the Iranian regime. You could also go back into his first term. While I've worked in the first year of his second term, in his first term as State Department spokesperson, we dealt with America leaving the JCPOA. That was the Iranian nuclear deal. We took on Qasem Soleimani. We took him out, obviously. And we also took on the maximum economic pressure campaign against Iran, in which we took their legitimate oil exports down to 460,000 barrels a day. I mean, it was de minimis compared to what it was whenever President Trump entered office. So I think it's insulting not only of the president, but of his entire team for anyone that would insinuate that he doesn't know what he's getting into. This is the guy who took out Qasem Soleimani, the world's leading terrorist at the time. We have the best and brightest intelligence community, CIA and military on the planet. We are unmatched. We have no peer when it comes to our intelligence strength and our military strength. And if anyone's willing to challenge us, be my guest. So far, no one on the world stage can do so, including this regime. So the president is briefed very detailed from, again, the best intelligence, the best military on the planet. He spent 4 years as president where he took on the Iranian regime and in that time took a lot of decisive action, both militarily and economically. We, of course, had the attacks last June. And let me just say, I want to make sure that the British people know this. The argument when I hear someone say that Israel or Netanyahu got Trump, this is an anti-Semitic argument on its face. This is a trope for people to go after Israel, but it's most importantly a trope for people to go after the Jews. It's offensive and it's not tolerated in this administration by any means, and it's insulting.
Oh, I know. So that was Morgan Ortagus, and we will play you the second half of that interview a little while later, but let me get the alternative opinion now from Democrat strategist who served in Joe Biden's administration, friend of the show, Malison Albert. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining The Late Show live. You were here listening there to what Morgan was saying. Is she right about the fact that Donald Trump has this basically under control?
Well, Bev, I've missed you. Paul said, I too was with the Australian and he was great, but no one measures up to you. But on the question of what we're doing in Iran, look, I had a lot of questions from the start because I think the two chief objectives you would hope to get from taking military action against Iran, regime change, and getting rid of the enriched uranium, I thought were both going to be very difficult. I didn't think that they were necessarily going to be able to be accomplished through airstrikes alone. And then, Bev, as you know, I've said repeatedly I'm against putting troops on the ground, just because I think that opens up a whole nother can of worms, because even if we successfully got rid of the Iranian regime, we would be dealing with a lot of fallout after, potentially sectarian violence. And I think one thing that needs to be noted, someone has said, and a far smarter person than me, that since World War II, the U.S. has won every battle but lost every war. And I think that gets to this broader point of U.S. military action will have successes in the sense that we have the best military in the world. But are the actions we're taking going to actually serve the strategic goals we broadly have? And I think this case with the Iran war, we're seeing a similar issue, which is militarily we're unmatched. We're able to take out a lot of what we need to take out in Iran. But have we accomplished what we wanted to strategically? I don't think we have.
If you have an Iran that does not have nuclear capabilities, though, Mali, that is surely accomplishing what they set out to do. Excuse me, that is accomplishing what they set out to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if we get to the point where we are able to get rid of the enriched uranium and have a serious inspection regime that makes sure that the Iranians don't do anything to, develop a nuclear weapon, I think that would be a success. I think we potentially could have gotten there with further negotiations, and I think we pretty much already had it with Obama's JCPOA. But the question is, will we get there? Because right now, we're not there yet. Hopefully this war doesn't continue, so we don't have further economic pain and any more U.S. soldiers pass away.
But how do you negotiate with a regime that will hang its healthy, young Olympic athletes because they protested against them? How do you negotiate with a government that would kill 40,000 of their own people? Those people, Mali, surely only speak one language, and that is strength through military action.
Well, Bev, it's a good question. And the thing that worries me here is if you look at North Korea, because they have a nuclear weapon, has been ostracized from the global community, as they should, because they're a tyrannical regime. But they haven't shown any willingness to give it up, and they've been completely fine to impoverish their people. So I wonder if we get to this point where we're unwilling to put troops on the ground to facilitate full regime change, but we continue to ratchet up the pressure, both economically and maybe militarily, again, if the ceasefire dies down. And we do both of those things, but I think the problem is the Iranian people, or not the Iranian people, the Iranian government, specifically the Ayatollah, is completely fine to impoverish his citizens and let his citizens die, just like the North Korean leader, instead of negotiate or facilitate anything with the nuclear program with the U.S. So I don't have an easy answer for you, Bev. It's not an easy situation.
No, it isn't. It isn't an easy situation. But as Morgan said to me earlier, this is what President Trump is doing on behalf of the world, not just on behalf of America, particularly on behalf of the Middle East and on behalf of Europe and Western civilization. Mali, I look forward to seeing you back in the studio very soon, I hope. See you soon. Right, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
What I can promise the British people is that President Trump will not allow a terrorist regime, a theocratic revolutionary regime, to control the Strait of Hormuz. It's not going to happen.
Well, that's what we were just saying. So stay tuned for more of that very frank interview with Morgan Ortagus. First, though, I'll get the reaction from my panel. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You have the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I was just getting told off by Jake in London for walking around the studio. You have to walk around the studio here. It's a long time. You've got to get the blood pumping. But I did make it back to my seat. So just before the break, I was showing you my exclusive chat with former envoy in the Middle East, and I asked her for an update on the Strait of Hormuz, and this is what she had to say.
What I can promise the British people is that President Trump will not allow a terrorist regime, a theocratic revolutionary regime, to control the Strait of Hormuz. It's not going to happen. He's not going to allow that. And what will have to happen over time is the principle that we all fought together so closely in World War II to see that rules-based international order continue, to see freedom of navigation, freedom of operation in international waters. That is brought to you by the U.S. Navy and the British Navy and others working together, but honestly, principally by the U.S. Navy. And we are never going to allow, whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's in the Philippines near the Thomas Shoal, we're not going to allow anywhere in the world for anybody, especially a theocratic, revolutionary, terrorist regime, to control the waterways that are going to affect the United States and the United Kingdom. And we hope and pray that more of our allies will get in the fight with us. But even if we have to fight alone, we will fight and we will do the right thing.
Reem Ibrahim, it's remarkable hearing that sort of rhetoric for me. It is so different to what we ever hear in the UK.
It is, and you will very, very rarely hear somebody defend the actions of our government in the United Kingdom so vehemently and so stringently. I mean, it's interesting. You don't get that kind of, the kind of MAGA glamour that you get in America. You don't get that in the United Kingdom, even when it's a party that is, you know, more conservative. It's a Conservative Party, perhaps because they weren't very conservative. But I think that what's interesting about this is a lot of the MAGA base are very, very supportive of the war in Iran. The amount of money that's being spent doesn't really seem to concern them. But the American public as a whole do not support the war.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to make that point, that actually the conversations about taxpayer money being spent, whether or not Trump and Vance had actually misled the public in the election, they said, if you don't want to get involved in foreign conflicts, vote for us. And here we are involved in a foreign conflict.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a really, really important point to make.
Yeah, Mark, let me come to you, Mark Albert. I know you don't consider yourself a lefty.
I was a journalist for 25 years.
I know, but I do like to slightly take the mickey out of the fact that you've got your unconscious bias that you wore as a journalist for 25 years. Our viewers can make up their own mind. But when you hear Morgan talking like that, do you think people who are coming out and defending President Trump at the moment are doing so with conviction? Or are they trying to sell something to people that they weren't frightened of in the first place?
Do you know, I grew up as a Dodgers fan in Los Angeles, and when they lose, I root for the Dodgers. And then when they win, I root for the Dodgers. I always root for the Dodgers.
Yes.
There are people on either side that are always going to root for their team, whether they are correct or incorrect. And the people that you see defending certain actions by the Trump administration are going to stand by them no matter what. You had mentioned about the electoral promises not to get into other wars. We're not just into one. We have bombed Iran. We've gone into Venezuela. We're now back in Iran. We've threatened Cuba. We made the Danes start training what they would do if the U.S. invaded Greenland. I mean, right? None of that was on the campaign list. And I note that the envoy had mentioned it's not going to happen that Iran will control the Strait of Hormuz. Newsflash, they are controlling the Strait of Hormuz right now.
Iran are?
Iran, right now.
Well,
and the Americans, I agree. The Americans are claiming that they have been able to blockade, they've been able to get.
But there was a Chinese vessel that went through.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just the American ones. Of course, the Chinese are able to as well. The fundamental point here is, I think, when Trump was, during the campaign, the things he talked about that were really, really quite attractive to a lot of us, well, specifically to me. I mean, things like Doge, talking about cutting government waste. The relationship with Elon Musk completely soured within the first few months, and Elon Musk had left government. So I think that the aspect of the government in which they're saying we're going to reduce the size of the state, we're going to make sure American taxpayer money is not being wasted. Here we have billions of American taxpayer money being wasted.
Go on, Mark.
I'm going to tell you what's going to be on the campaign trail later this month. I've got a crystal ball right here, and I'm going to tell you. And it is this. The Republicans and the president would not extend the health subsidies for millions of Americans, up to 20 million Americans at the end of last year, because it would cost $30 billion. The Trump administration went to Congress with a request for $200 billion for this unanticipated conflict in Iran. They've now dialed that back perhaps to 90, 95, 100 billion. 3 times what they said the U.S. could not afford on health care for 20 million citizens.
So can you speculate then as to what inspired this government to take this action in Iran at this time? If what you're saying is it's so patently unpopular and so easy to criticise in the media, why do it?
So I think this is a multifaceted argument. One, you have got Donald Trump, who's got a very close ally in Israel, right, with the prime minister. And that prime minister has found a very willing and open audience here in the Oval Office. Number 2, absolutely, Donald Trump, and with good measure, can be proud of what U.S. service members did in Venezuela. Whether you agree or not about going in, it was almost a flawless operation, and credit to the U.S. military. And so there have been instances in history where a president sees the success, the amazing honor and bravery.
Hubris.
Exactly.
Hubris,
and that they look for other ways to get in and get out. And in this case, I do wonder whether in the Oval Office they thought it would be much quicker. We're going to be on day 58 when the king arrives and the king and the queen arrives. Day 58, if this keeps going since the U.S. first attacked Iran. That's a long time.
Paul Cox, let me come to you in the UK, because it's very easy here in America to become wrapped up in how this is affecting the American people and the American media and how they're treating it. My understanding is that in the UK, what people are worried about is filling their car with petrol and diesel and seeing that number tick up. Are people making that link, do you think?
Well, they don't need to make that link, because every mainstream media outlet tells them it is that link. They don't have to think for themselves. If you tune into the BBC or Sky News, I think that's what they call it, I can't remember, I've never watched any of them for many years, then you will be told. You'll just sit back and be told what to think and what to say to other people.
Yeah.
I think to some degree, people are obviously worried about filling their tanks up. You know, I do a lot of driving. I have to fill my tank up, and I have noticed the difference. However, I'm willing to accept short-term pain for long-term gain. And I think many of the criticisms about this war are from people who don't truly understand what the war is about. And that's not, you know, I'm not criticising anyone for that, because it's very difficult to see amongst all the information exactly what's going on. But for my money, and in my opinion, it's about resetting the global balance in the US's favour. What they did in Venezuela, I could see Reem inhale already, what they did in Venezuela and what they are now doing in Iran is about resetting the balance. Of course, it's not going to be as easy in Iran as it was in Venezuela. And I'm sure the strategy does not include Iran having complete authority over the Straits of Hormuz. And I would be very surprised if Donald Trump let that happen for long.
Before the war,
No,
the
they
Strait of
didn't,
Hormuz was completely free.
I agree, Reem, and that is a solid argument. But before Second World War, the Nazis ran amok. After the Second World War, with all sorts of carnage and death, they no longer run amok. Unfortunately, in this modern time, it's not. I'm aware. But my point I'm trying to make is that unfortunately, in these modern times, we've become so secure that peace is guaranteed and just going to happen that we've forgotten that freedom is hard fought and there is a lot of pain, but in the end it is worth it.
Mark, will it be worth it?
I am not wise enough to make a judgment at this stage whether it would be worth it. I do recall, however, there was a deal in place, and the IAEA had said that Iran was fulfilling many of the terms of that agreement. That agreement was torn up by Donald Trump in the first term. Now he's trying to renegotiate another deal, which looks surprisingly like the first deal.
Reem, when I sort of prevaricate on the logic of going into Iran, I do. Sometimes I'll sit here, and it's very, very easy to sit in this seat and hear both sides of this argument. There was peace. There was a relative stability from Iran, despite the fact that they were funding proxies. There's all this grey area. But then I think about, I think about those wrestlers that they hung.
Yes.
I keep coming back in my mind to those Olympic athletes, those strong, innocent young men who represented everything good, and they were publicly hung by the Iranians. And at that point, I think, give them hell. Do what you can just to help the Iranian people.
Bev, I think a lot of people feel that way, and I think that what's often absent from this conversation is what happens to the Iranian people. And the problem is, if the Americans have gone in, caused all of this destruction, caused all of this death, and they don't see genuine regime change, that is the worst of all worlds.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Right, thank you all. Lots more to talk about. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
We are underprepared, we're underinsured, we're under attack, we're not safe. And the current conflict in the Middle East has to be a rude wake-up call to this country.
It's enough to give you nightmares, that, but they are the chilling words from former NATO chief Lord George Robertson, talking just this evening. Now, do you look at men like that at the moment and think they are warmongering? Or is the UK indeed extremely vulnerable right now? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. We've just been looking at your messages. We talked at the top of the show about the fact that when King Charles and Camilla come over the week after next, they're going to go and visit New York. And I was just speculating that given that Mamdani, the extremely socialist mayor in New York, is going to be there to visit King Charles, it's the kind of thing that I imagine Sadiq Khan might muscle in on just to upset Trump over in Washington. And one of you has got in touch at home saying that you have a great idea. I can't find your name now, I'm very sorry, but that actually President Trump should maybe take away Sadiq Khan's visa just before the visit. I think that's a really clever idea.
I think it's a terrible idea. That's an awful idea. Look, I mean, the United Kingdom have banned somebody like Kanye West from entering the country.
Don't get me started.
Which is, I think, a terrible idea. We're effectively saying that the government gets to decide who is right and who is wrong. Now, the UK doesn't have free speech, but America does. America has the First Amendment. You can say whatever you want, whenever you want, so long as you're not inciting violence. And I think free speech is a really, really important pillar of what it means to be an American, what it means to have freedom.
All right, I was just going to look for a bit of support to keep Sadiq Khan out. I didn't realize I'd open that can of worms.
I don't like Sadiq Khan, but that doesn't mean he should be banned.
OK, let me know what you think at home. Another day, though, another warning in the UK about Britain's depleted military. Lord George Robertson this evening spoke in the starkest of terms about the state of Britain's defences, claiming that the country's security is now in peril. He's the author of the government's Strategic Defence Review and has launched a blistering attack on the government, accusing the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of what he calls corrosive complacency when it comes to defence spending. Here he is.
We are underprepared, we're underinsured, we're under attack, we're not safe. Bluntly, that is the underlying message that we got. And the current conflict in the Middle East has to be a rude wake-up call to this country.
Well, Well, the Prime Minister has hit back at Lord Robertson, saying that he completely rejects that assessment, adding our armed forces are working around the clock. He said they are the best in the world and they work 24/7 to keep us safe. We have made the largest defence investment since the Cold War. I was also... forget that. Henry Bolton joins me now. Henry, good evening. Two sides of the story there, but who is right? Starmer or the former NATO chief?
Lord Robertson. Absolutely no question about that whatsoever. And when the government says that it's uplifting defence, actually, it's not. At the moment, government figures are that we spend 2.3% of GDP on defence. They're saying they'll go to 2.5% by 2027 or in 2027. But actually, there's virtually no new money in that whatsoever. They're just bringing in other budgets that are external to defence into the defence budget. So it's a way of sort of presenting a larger defence budget without finding any new money whatsoever. And then they're talking about an uplift again in 2030. Well, in 2030, they probably won't be in power any longer with any luck. And that money just there is absolutely no idea where that money will come from, that uplift for 2030 in their planning. I suspect Lord Robertson was one of the authors of the Strategic Defence Review for the United Kingdom. So looking at threat, looking at the threat situation, a threat picture sort of globally, where that plays into the need to secure UK interests. And that's the sort of what's the problem? How should we orientate to it? But that orientation has not been funded by the government in something that's was due to be published last year, the Defence Investment Plan, which is the funding plan for the Strategic Defence Review. So that's on hold. We don't know what's happening to that, but I'll tell you what I suspect is happening to that. When they publish that, the creative accounting, this sort of external money that actually isn't part of sort of what you and I would call defence. It's not guns, bullets, soldiers, airmen, ships and tanks and so on. It's sort of folded in sort of pensions and what have you. All of that is going to be revealed. It's going to be very difficult to mask that. And so the government's creative accounting will be very embarrassing when they do eventually publish that. And I suspect they're trying to sort of finesse that at the moment.
And the government say that their defence investment plan, though, Henry, will be published as soon as possible. Do you think that it will give some reassurance to the nation?
In what I've just said, no, I don't think it will. The sort of headline figure will be higher. Yes, and it will look good, but it still won't fund the capabilities that the Strategic Defence Review requires. I think the problem here is that as soon as possible should have been with the Strategic Defence Review. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to fund it. But the strategic, I mean, it's going to be probably the end of this year or even possibly the beginning of 2027 before it is published at the present rate, because of, if you look at parliamentary recesses and all the schedule and so on of Parliament and government, it may well be that we don't see it until the end of this year or the beginning of next. So it will be over a year late. It'll be 18 months or 2 years late. And in the meantime, we've got British industry, the industrial military complex, if you like, the sort of industry that supports arms manufacturing and technology and new research and development and so on, has been investing its own money on the basis that the Strategic Defence Review said, look, this is what we're going to do. It's a commitment to do certain things, which requires industry to prepare for that. Industry had no idea they were going to be waiting so long for the funding to support that review, so support the plan. So they've invested their own money. They're losing their own money. There are defence companies going out of business, which are unique capabilities, certainly for the UK. And then we look at the resilience. NATO requires member states to have a certain amount of resilience. We want resilience in the UK, industrial, economic, and so on. Against global shocks and against military action towards the UK, our allies, or elsewhere. But we're undermining that by undermining our own industry.
OK, Henry, Fascinating and passionate as always. Thank you so much, Henry Bolton, a former Army captain in the Army. A few messages shall we have a quick look at before we go and take a quick break. Janet says, I am with Paul. Yes, our fuel prices have gone up, but it's a no-brainer. It's better than Iran bombing us with a nuclear weapon. And in fact, Paul Cox replied to you. Lucky you, Janet. Let's see what else you've been saying on here. Sorry, guys, let me just find these messages. Paul Cox nailed it. Bev, I think there's a difference between peace and the calm before the storm. And that's it. And also, they love you being here, Reem, as usual. They like you as well, Ma, don't worry. All right, more to come in the next hour, including this.
Excuse me, sir. Right now.
That was just moments ago. Vice President J.D. Vance was interrupted by a heckler at a TP USA event. We'll tell you why.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A messy mix today. It's not as cold out there as yesterday. Certainly across the east you'll notice a milder start. In the east, well, staying largely dry, but rain in the west is moving that way through the day. Some heavy bursts this morning for Pembrokeshire, Devon, Cornwall. That'll push its way across Northern Ireland into western Scotland. A few showers in the eastern areas, but much of eastern England I think will stay dry until later on. That rain creeping into northwest England, the Midlands and more central parts of southern England this afternoon. Either side, it should brighten up. Quite cloudy out there this morning. We may see some sunny spells and quite mild in the east. Could get to 18 degrees in a few spots if the sun does come out. It is quite blustery and gusty though, so it certainly doesn't feel all that mild when this rain band does come in. And it will get into the southeast and East Anglia as we go through this evening's rush hour. Further west, something a bit brighter, but a few blustery showers zipping in on a fairly brisk wind, which will bring a fair few showers to Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones here, the chance of the odd rumble of thunder. Same goes for western Scotland. Some heavy downpours likely here come the end of the day as that weather front moves its way up across northeastern Scotland, tending to fizzle out as it does so. Clearer skies then follow for many during the first half of the night at least, but look at the showers still coming in across Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. Showers too for parts of Wales and western England through the second half of the night, but much of the east will stay dry. And again, a pretty mild night, certainly a lot warmer than nights earlier in the week. On to tomorrow morning, and again it's a fairly grey start. Again there'll be quite a few showers through the day, particularly for Scotland. Frequent showers coming in here and for Northern Ireland. The showers more scattered across England and Wales. Decent chance here. Most of the day will be dry, particularly across the far north of England and along the south coast as well. Some sunny spells developing, still quite breezy but still quite mild with temperatures in the mid to high teens for many.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
From football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good evening, good morning, live from Washington DC. This is Beth Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Britain and the United States of America. Breaking just now.
Excuse me, sir. Right now.
That was JD Vance being interrupted by a heckler at a TPUSA, that's a Charlie Kirk event. We're going to bring you the full clip later. And he gave an update on the situation in Iran also tonight. Has Donald Trump got any allies left? He's now turned on Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. I'm going to speak to a defender of the American president in a moment and ask how isolated is he really becoming.
Today, we're launching our campaign for Yes Sex Please, We're British. We want to get the whole of Britain talking about sex. And we're making the summer of 2026 the summer of sex.
The first step is we want to hear from you.
You're not. Can you not? Can you not? Can you not? That is Samantha Niblett, MP, the brilliantly named Mrs. Niblett, who wants us all to have a summer of sex. And she's pushing for what she says will be a more open and inclusive approach to sex education. Have MPs not got anything better to do? Now, have a look at these images. There is a pot of Pringles, some Haribo and some rather delicious looking sweets. And I'll tell you in a moment why they have all been banned. We don't like banning things, do we, Reem Ibrahim? I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Remember, no adverts. I have to ask award-winning journalist and founder of the Media Advisory Experts, Mark Albert, have you been for a wee?
Have I what?
Have you been to the toilet?
Oh, yes. I'm like, is that really what she's saying? What I think it is? I've got to put on my British translator. Yes, I have, because you've got no breaks for the next 2 hours.
Correct. Now, and as a seasoned news anchor, I know that you know what that means. So I saw you nip out and come back again. I thought, that is a man who knows he's got to go to the loo.
Oh, I didn't go, but I've not really been drinking anything, so I should be okay.
Okay, good. Excellent.
We're all sorted.
Right. That is, of course, Reem Ibrahim. You all know her, but she writes for Reason magazine now here in America and in London. GB News contributor, comedian. I missed you, Paul, while I was off for a couple of weeks. Paul Cox, there he is.
Oh,
how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I missed you too. I very nearly missed you, actually, but I realised it was your holiday and you probably didn't want any reminders of work. But it's so good to have you back, Bev. All right, I'll message you. I'll message you later.
You, Paul.
Okay.
Please do. I had a few days off over Easter and then I did some cover for various other shows last week as well. Now, moving on. President Trump has dramatically turned against one of his closest European allies, Giorgia Meloni, over her reluctance to join the war on Iran and her defence of the Pope. Now, in an extraordinary broadside, Trump claimed that the Italian Prime Minister is no longer the same person, warning that Italy itself may never be the same again. Now, this comes after Meloni hit back at Trump's criticism of the Pope after he called him weak on crime and accused him of pandering to the radical left. President Trump came under fire, of course, after posting a now deleted image of himself depicted as a man in a white robe who appeared to be healing people. And of course, it's incredibly controversial. It's on the front pages of all the papers in the UK today. President Trump said he thought it was an image of a doctor healing people and doing good. So tonight, how does the president cope with this now? How isolated is he becoming? Let's talk to the host of Newsmax's Bianca Across the Nation. Bianca Della Garza joins me. Delighted to have you with me, Bianca, as always. Now, listen, there were lots of social media posts going around today saying when you're trying to defend President Trump and then he posts a picture of himself as Jesus Christ, with lots of people with their heads in their hands. What do you make of it?
Well, it's great to see you back also, Bev. I should echo, as your other panelists have said. President Trump yesterday was asked if he would apologize, and he doubled down. He said, no, I think the Pope is wrong. I like his brother Louis better. He's very MAGA. So, of course, when you hear that Prime Minister Meloni says that Trump's unacceptable, he's not going to back down to a prime minister if he's not backing down to the Pope. I think this has been sort of building, Bev, as you recall, since Easter, when there was some rhetoric there that people didn't like. But President Trump clearly is effective in getting the job done because the blockade is being effective. And now, look, the other story breaking, there might be another round of talks this Thursday. And there's reports that behind closed doors, not outwardly, but even President Pezeshkian is saying we are weeks away from being crippled, and they are nervous. Let's remain hopeful. I do hope that we can ease some of the tensions here and just take a deep breath, because I don't think it's good for anyone, of course, including President Trump, to have these unnecessary and unforced errors, perhaps.
So do you think then that this noise and this distraction with these Truth Social posts and people analysing his relationships with other leaders is really just a noisy distraction and largely irrelevant compared to the job at hand in Iran, that he needs to be given space, time and support to get along with?
Yeah, great question. And, let's talk about the time. We're not into an endless war yet. And that was something we heard from Treasury Secretary Bessent today, talking about how this is going to be a short-term pain economically that's going to have generational change. The fact that they will never have a nuclear weapon. You're right. I do feel that this is a distraction, but not a distraction to President Trump and his team and his administration. I feel that they are locked in and zeroed in and understand exactly what is at stake here. And that's why some of the comments, including from Reeves, saying that she thinks it's folly and they went in without an exit plan. Listen, at some point, they were going to make a nuclear weapon. President Trump and his team felt that it was too close, and they made this decision. And the fact that, we see European NATO being talked about, and the fact that Keir Starmer and Macron are going to have a meeting talking about a post-war situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Bev, I ask you, and I ask your wonderful viewers in the UK, does that mean there's post-war? And does that mean it's coming close and imminently if they're already planning for it? Because that would mean President Trump is winning.
If he does get that, Bianca, and he does manage to demilitarize Iran, and they do have a regime or a leadership, let's not use the word regime, if they have a government in place that the Iranian people support and that they vote in, and there is this uprising and the women can take off their hijabs and their burqas and be free on the streets. If that happens, will people give President Trump credit for that? Or will they look, do you think, to allow somebody else to take the praise for that outcome?
I think it's always easier on the other side of something when it turns out positive to say, oh, yes, I was really confident. I think we already saw that in Gaza, where we saw Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, came out and commended President Trump for creating that peace which is moving forward, we should note. I don't know in this situation. I also think we should be cautiously optimistic that we're a long way from having any type of, I think, stable internal government. It's not Venezuela. I don't think we're going to have that Delcy Rodriguez figure in this transition. But I do think we are going to see the Strait of Hormuz being less of a volatile control by Iran, because let's face it, they have no navy. What more can they do? They're sweeping for the mines. They're creating other routes. They're blockading it. 6 merchant ships were turned away. It's a process. But to your point there, and just to encapsulate all the question is, will he get credit? I don't think so. I don't think a lot of what President Trump will do will be written in recent history for credit. I think we'll look 10, 20 years from now to the history books to see what the legacy is of President Donald Trump.
We were hearing from our guests earlier that we were saying that actually the cost of living crisis, all of the other factors which will come into play at the midterms, which are frankly going to race upon us here, anybody that was working in the media here, that this can be used against President Trump, Iran, if it does not have a peaceful resolution. That is surely the worst case scenario for the Republican government, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good. I think that we are in serious question right now with, some of the attrition of people in the House. And we already had a slim majority. Some people are now running for governor. Others are retiring. And then, as you're right, the messaging, the left is so good at creating these narratives about President Trump, saying 25th Amendment. Bev, they didn't want a 25th Amendment Joe Biden when he couldn't find his way off of a stage. The gas prices were astronomical. Inflation was soaring under Joe Biden. He completely wrecked the economy. And none of that is being discussed. And the midterms are obviously just a few months away here. But I don't think it's a lost cause just yet. And I do think that Americans are going to give President Trump a little bit of grace here to allow him to try and solve this conflict. As I said, Besant came out today at a big symposium in Washington, D.C. And we know that right now, President Trump also has a big meeting with Xi in China. So China is also going to be much more isolated. There's this major shifting. If this is successful in Iran, not only are we talking about a more stable Middle East, less export of terrorism across the world, but a China that actually isn't really, the axis is all upended. And I think some of the diplomatic dance that we're seeing behind closed doors may not be seen completely until a few months from now, closer to the midterms, which might actually bode well. Remember, voters have a very short memory, Bev.
Yeah, very good point. Bianca, just stay with me. I want us to have a quick look at what happened just a few moments ago. JD Vance is talking at a TP USA event. I haven't seen this yet myself. Let's have a quick look together. Here it is.
But here's where we are on, fundamentally, the president set a policy, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and right now we are negotiating to make sure that very thing happens. And here's, what's interesting about this is, what's interesting about this is that we have this ceasefire that's in place. I think it's 6 or 7 days old. Right now, the ceasefire is holding. And what you're seeing is what the president wants to make, he doesn't want to make like a small deal. He wants to make the grand bargain. And what he's basically offering to Iran is very simple, and frankly, it's something that no president has, I think, has had the ability to offer. He said that if you're willing to act like a normal country, we are willing to treat you economically like a normal country. He doesn't want a small deal. And that's one of the reasons why, one, I'd say in Pakistan, we made a ton of progress. But the reason why the deal is not yet done is because the president, he really wants a deal where Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, Iran is not state sponsoring terrorism, but also the people of Iran can thrive and prosper and join the world economy.
Bianca, when JD Vance talks like that, he makes it sound so simple. The messaging around this has been incredibly mixed, but when he talks like that, it sounds perfectly comprehensible. However, there will still be people who say, what right does America have, because I talk to these people in the UK, what right does America have deciding whether Iran should live a more Western existence? Aren't they free to live in a way that they wish?
And there are vocal opposition here as well in the United States to that, this conflict. but it's bigger than what the people decide or don't decide. Let's be clear. Under the Shah, these people were living lives. That regime hijacked a country. And, then they decided to fund terror all over the globe. At one point, do people with any shred of morality say, yes, we are not only going to say that is wrong, that they are oppressing their people, but they are murdering, killing, kidnapping with their proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis, a 12-year war with Saudi Arabia. They are over in here. We believe there could be sleeper cells. These people that chant death to America, death to Israel. We also know that there have been issues in the UK of extreme radicals.
Yeah.
And so we look at the totality of it. It's not about us saying we're the moral police and we need to go free these people. It's about us saying if these people ever got a nuclear weapon, they could wipe us off the face of the earth. That is the red line, I think. It does sound logical, you're right, when it's laid out like that, but the Middle East has been so difficult for anyone to tackle, and that's why they've all avoided it, Bev. And you know that. Every president has said we're not going to deal with it now, kick the can, or give them $160 billion in cash like Obama did.
Yeah. Bianca, great to see you. Newsmax's Bianca across the nation hosts there, Bianca Della Garza. I will speak to you very soon. Take care. Thank you. Right, let me ask my panel about this. Mark Albert, I could see you writing down a few little things that were occurring to you there. What were you thinking when you were listening to Bianca?
So, first of all, just a factual correction, if I may. President Biden did not crash the economy. In the last year of the Biden presidency, 1.2 million jobs created. The first year of Donald Trump's 290,000, that's 76% fewer. On Iran, we've already talked about the status of the blockade and whether it's effective or not. I don't think it has been 100% effective. And also, Iran, even though absolutely the U.S. military has done amazing work destroying the Iranian Navy, and yet there was a report that Iran has laid so many mines they can't even find them all. They don't know where they all are. They don't have the mine clearing ships to find them. So the fact that we have control of the strait or that the strait is open is just false. It is not true.
Okay. Reem?
Well, I think it's interesting thinking about what Trump has said. I mean, I absolutely echo what you say about the military. As a Brit, I am extraordinarily jealous of the American military. I must say, one of the things about being an American citizen is the American government will always come and get you. No matter what happens, no matter who you are. I mean, we saw what happened with the pilots in Iran. I thought that was extraordinary. I mean, I think that the American military servicemen are just fantastic. When we're looking at the war itself, I mean, we've got to be very clear about how much of this money is being wasted, but also about whether or not these aims are actually being achieved. Now, your guest previously said, actually, you know what, the Iranian regime have done very bad things. They've killed lots of people. That's true. The Iranian regime are awful. I don't think anybody here is supporting the regime itself and what they have done and what they have achieved. We are not going to see regime change unless something significantly changes, i.e. the Americans have boots on the ground. And also, how many other countries do really bad things and we don't get involved? Are we going to now get involved in Sudan? Are we going to get involved in China? Are we going to start getting involved in every other Middle Eastern country that has done bad things? Lots of countries kill people. Unfortunately, the nature of government is that they have the monopoly of force. Is it the American government's job, and indeed the American taxpayers' job, to fund it every single time something bad happens in the world, for them to then go after them?
Well, the majority of Americans voted for an administration that said they were not going to do that.
Indeed.
And just on the money real quick, what is going overlooked at the moment is that the Trump administration submitted their budget this month for $1.5 trillion next year for the Pentagon. It has never gone over $1 trillion. This is more than 50%. Now, the Trump administration has been incredibly strong through both terms in basically whacking allies, saying you're not spending enough on defense. But even in this Republican-controlled Congress, as narrow as the margins are, I don't know that $1.5 trillion is going anywhere, or even a budget for the Pentagon over $1 trillion. And the supplemental to fund the conflict in Iran is going to be near $100 billion. There's a lot of money at stake here, and I don't think the taxpayers are looking to spend $1 trillion on the Pentagon.
Paul Cox, what are your thoughts on that, listening to those three opinions there? We have Bianca and then Reem and then Mark. Your assessment
Yeah, look, on this particular subject, when it's war and life and death, I always respect all views. Reem, Mark, yourself. It's important to listen to everybody because, you know, we all see the world differently. But we're all talking here as if we've had peace for far too long. It's almost as if we've become incredibly soft. If I said to any one of us, how much would you like to spend on security of your apartment, of your home? Let's take the doors out, let's take the windows out, just let people come and go. You'd feel very differently. What the US is doing is the security for the Western world's values. Iran is different to Sudan in the sense that Iran is attacking Western values as proxies which are deliberately employed to attack Western countries and infrastructure. Obviously, Israel, as Mark rightly pointed out earlier, Israel is a very close ally of the US, a very close ally of the West in the Middle East, and is constantly bombarded from either side. And then, obviously, attacked because it has this emotional reaction from absolutely everybody going, oh no, I can't believe it. It's because we all live incredibly comfortably. Washington, D.C. looks beautiful. London, bit of a war zone, not brilliant, but where I live in Hampshire, it's very peaceful. I feel unaffected. If I didn't read the news as much as I did and just carried on, all I'd worry about is the fact that Havant Borough Council have refused to take my garden waste for the third time this month. I'm not happy. However, there is a much bigger thing going on here, and that's that we have to, as a sort of a humanity, understand what's good for us. And it's very difficult to get everybody to agree, but I think we can all agree that what Iran did to its citizens, did to its own citizens, is not good for humanity.
When, Mark, I know you're probably the least on board with this conflict here, although Reem isn't as well. When you hear Iranian people celebrating, when you see them celebrating on the streets that President Trump is coming to save them, and I have them repeatedly in this studio, Iranian people just saying, this is what we want to happen. Does that not turn the dial a little, sort of, in your mind, in terms of the fact that he has a moral obligation, perhaps, Trump, to do this?
Well, it certainly does not matter where my dial is on this or any other topic for world events. However...
Yeah, but you were quick to come out and defend Biden's economic...
No, I'm not defending Biden's economic record. I'm simply setting the facts straight. Those were the facts. Biden did not crush the economy. It doesn't matter what side you're on, it didn't happen. So on this, for example, Paul says that securing the Western world's values. And the Western world, the U.S. and Britain and their allies have been a beacon for the Western world's values. I mean, that's, you know, why we went into World War II. That's what we were defending, the Western world's values. I think any American can look at the current conflict in Iran and say, if Paul's right, that we are going there to defend Western world values, where's the rest of the Western world? Is it A, that they don't share the same values, B, that they don't support this administration, or C, perhaps the Trump administration is out on a limb? I don't know the answer, but there is no other part of the Western world that is supporting the U.S. at this moment in Iran.
But could it be that going out on that limb would make some American people very proud that you are defending Western values and allowing young, innocent people to be free?
The question is, what values are being defended? The idea that the American government can throw their weight around whenever they want, that they're in control, that they understand the world order and they're in control of it. I mean, I don't really necessarily understand, unless we get regime change in Iran, which I don't think is very likely, especially as Trump is under so much pressure to end the war because of how much it's costing. Is this really defending liberty, defending freedom, defending the rights of the Iranian people? Or is this just a very costly war that Trump feels will make him more popular?
Well, I'd rather America was in charge of the Middle East than Iran, if I'm completely honest.
I share that view, Bev, but unfortunately the Americans do not have the capability to be able to have complete control over Middle Eastern powers. I mean, I think part of the problem is that influence there. Where is that money going? Where is that money being invested in? The Iranian government have so many proxies and I think absolutely ought to be cut off. But that won't happen unless there is genuine regime change. And it seems as though the American government didn't really have very much of a plan.
Let's bring in political commentator Jonathan Liss to this conversation, shall we, as well? Jonathan, thank you so much. Good morning to you over in the UK. Thank you for joining this conversation as well. You've been listening to the pros and cons here. It's still effectively this idea of invading Iran. because it's coming down, keeps coming down repeatedly to whether it was morally, ethically the right thing to do, whether there was a good enough reason to do what the American and the Israelis have done. Where do you sit on that, Jonathan, now?
Bev, the two of us have discussed this long enough to know that I think it was a complete disaster, and nothing that's happened since then has changed my view in any way, shape or form.
Okay, nothing. Well, you've slightly thrown me there, Jonathan. That was rather succinct, more succinct than I was expecting from you. But okay, well, let me phrase the question slightly differently.
What can I possibly add? I mean, if someone were to listen to the conversation you had with that Newsmax presenter, they would think that we were living in a completely different reality. I don't know how people like that actually exist in the universe, because everything she said was untrue, literally everything. And I don't understand how people can actually live like this in a world where up is down, black is white, so right is wrong. Honestly, I'm the one who's thrown, Beth, because I listen to these people, and I think I don't know how we can coexist, because we're operating with literally different facts, with different planes of reality.
I agree.
Where Donald Trump.
I agree.
Where Donald Trump is doing something for the good of the world, where the United States is actually looking out for our security, where the war in Iran is going to make us safer in our beds at night. I don't know how serious people can look at what has happened over the last 6 weeks, and indeed longer, and conclude that any of that is true. When you look at what he's doing, everyone is more safe. Everyone is less safe. Sorry, everyone is less safe as a result of what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump started a war. He had no idea what he was doing. He literally contradicts himself in the same speech. He says it was about a regime change. It wasn't about regime change. It was about Iran getting a nuclear weapon. But apparently that's been imminent for the last 47 years. So when was that going to happen? Of course, that was never going to happen. Obama negotiated a deal with Iran that was actually working very, very well. Donald Trump tore it up and is now apparently seeking the same deal now. Obviously, he hates it because Obama had signed up to it. But basically, the only war aim now is to reopen a strait that the war closed. And somehow we have people who try to dress this up and pretend this is somehow sane, rational, normal. None of this is sane. None of this is rational. None of this is normal. I feel like I'm looking through the looking glass, stepping into a parallel reality where people simply justify the most unhinged behavior because Donald Trump is doing it. And if they admit that that is what they're doing, then they have to admit that they're wrong about Donald Trump all along, and they can't do that. So instead they have to bend over backwards, contort themselves into the most ridiculous postures that make them look ridiculous, unhinged and stupid, because admitting the truth would be too much for them.
Let me just ask you this. From what you've just said, it looks like you're saying that compared to the Ayatollah, Trump is the bad guy. Is he?
I don't know how you can possibly ask me that question after what I said, because I haven't defended the Iranian regime at any point in the last sort of 6 weeks of this conversation. Find me a time where I defended the Ayatollah or defended the Iranian regime. You will not find it. It's not a zero-sum game here, I think that what the Iranian regime is...
Hang on, Jonathan. I listened to you really carefully. I listened to you really carefully. Just try and answer my question. I listened to you really carefully, because I do. Because where you sit there saying you can't believe what you're hearing, I listen to you and I can't believe what I'm hearing. And so I just want to look at what basis we start this conversation from very different positions, regardless of where we are now 41 days into this conflict. We clearly came at it from a very different position when we were in peaceful times 6 weeks ago. I would have said at that point in time... No, hang on, I haven't finished yet. I would say at that point of time, the bigger threat to the West, or even to the Middle East, let's say, was Iran, not America. Now, you seem to think that President Trump is somehow the bad guy in a game of top trumps of who is more of a risk to the world than Iran. Have I got that bit wrong?
Bev, I don't use terms like good guys and bad guys because I think they're completely reductive and foolish. I think that what the Iranian regime was doing to its people was completely wrong. I think that what Donald Trump is now
bad
doing to
guys.
the Iranian people is completely wrong. I think threatening to wipe out an entire civilization, yeah, that's bad. I think that
Are you still going on about that? People are still banging on about that sentence. It's semantics. It is semantics. It is
it's not semantics to threaten genocide against the people. And Bev, can I just say to you one thing?
He didn't
Look,
threaten genocide. He said, I would take out a whole... he did not threaten genocide. And also, this is what the left perpetually do, which is policing speech. You're policing his speech.
He literally threatened to wipe out a civilization. He threatened to wipe out a civilization.
I don't think it's a left-wing position to come out and say, actually, you know what? I don't think that saying wiping out an entire civilization is a good thing. And we must be very clear about this. When Trump was saying this, everyone, including the Iranians, were very scared. We were all saying, everyone was saying, hold on a minute, is Trump actually saying he is going to wipe out an entire civilization? Now look, I think what we've all learned from this entire situation is what Trump says he does not mean. He often says things that do not mean anything. He will often say that he wants to invade Greenland, he wants to take over Greenland, he won't actually do it. A lot of the time it's a negotiating tactic.
Of course it is.
He was trying to scare people. But I don't think that when it comes to something like wiping out an entire civilization, that coming from the President of the United States is
I'm
very
sorry,
helpful.
but anybody that is watching
And that's
him,
not left-wing. It's not left-wing to say genocide is bad.
if anybody that is watching him carefully and trying to take away some of the emotion that you feel, Jonathan, when you see President Trump, you think emotionally, I think. I don't. With any leader. I don't think from a position of emotion.
And also,
Because
you
what
and
I'm
I,
saying-
you and I have been talking for many years together, right? And I've heard you talk about the military-industrial complex so many times. I've heard you say that why are we launching these forever wars? And I don't understand how you yourself, I'm not talking about sort of the MAGA cult or anything, how you have pivoted from a position which I agreed with. I don't agree with you very much, but I agreed with you on that forever wars are bad, that we had no right to launch wars in countries that we didn't belong to sort of start these adventures that were costing so many billions of dollars and so many lives.
Yep.
I agree with you on that. So I don't know why you are now.
Well, I look at Ukraine as a classic example where there was a peace deal and Boris Johnson flew in and ripped it up. I was furious that the war continued in Ukraine. We agreed to some degree on that there's not been enough. On this, I've been paying really, really close attention. Standing in that briefing room round the corner when Caroline Levitt comes out and talks about why they are doing it. And the messaging, as we just heard from JD Vance, has, I believe, been incredibly consistent and incredibly clear about destroying the military capability of Iran, destroying the nuclear capability of Iran.
But they said they did that like 4 weeks ago. Like 4 weeks ago, the American government
said
we've destroyed Iran's military capability. We've done it. It's all been sorted. And now suddenly it hasn't been done. They said that they've reopened the Strait of Hormuz, but it hasn't been reopened. And they said actually that now the aim of the war is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but the Strait of Hormuz was already open before the war started. I do think when we're thinking about what is actually going on here is last summer, the American government went in and tried to completely obliterate the Iranians' capability.
The Israeli government at that point, actually.
Well, indeed, but the Americans supported the Israelis in order to support them, in order to destroy the Iranian regime's capabilities. Now, my understanding, speaking to Iranian journalists over here in DC, is they're saying, look, if what happened last year didn't happen, this war wouldn't have happened. But because what happened last year happened, and the Iranian regime suddenly had an incentive to start developing nuclear capabilities. They didn't before, but as a result of what happened last year, they had an incentive to start
they've had an
developing
incentive. They've been chanting death to America. They've been chanting death to the West. Hang on, shush now. They've been chanting death to America and death to the West for a long time.
You just said we shouldn't take
I want to bring Mark in as well.
You said words didn't matter that much when you talk about genocide. Now words matter when Iran has the same slogan for 47 years. That's not a consistent position. That is not consistent.
Whilst
Iran
also killing 40,000 of their own innocent people, whilst also forcing women whilst also forcing their women to cover their entire bodies walking around the streets, whilst also killing 40,000 innocent people, their own
citizens. You look around Tehran and actually women, that law is not being even policed. There's still not a reason to declare war on them.
Mark, did you want to come in?
So I have something in my breast pocket here, and it is not a state visit invitation from the king. Instead here, it is a list, to Reem's point, of all the clear, unclear statements since this conflict has begun. March 3rd, we won the war. March 7th, we defeated Iran. March 9th, we must attack Iran. March 11th, you never like to say too early you won. We won in the first hour and it is over. And it goes on and on and on for a full page. of all the clear, unclear, unclear, clear statements that have been made by this administration about this conflict. The American people want clarity. You're absolutely right. I do not think that this administration has been communicating clearly about the goals, where we are with those goals, who's paying for these goals, and what status we are in this conflict right now.
Why should they?
The American people deserve to know.
No,
Democratic country, freedom.
No. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Because you're in the eye of the storm. And if you want to back your leader, Mark, let me finish. You are on a war footing. And if you want to back your leader, don't see him as a politician. See him as a negotiator. Because when he's talking in the public, he's not talking to the American people. He's talking to the Iranian leaders with whom he has to be constantly negotiating publicly.
Okay.
And if you can't, I don't know why you can't see that. I mean, Jonathan's
democratically elected.
Hold on,
It's
let me just make a
American
point.
taxpayer money being spent. Of course, the American people have to be on side.
Let me just make this point. Let's look at the
It's
past.
democracy.
Okay, in 1990, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and the U.S. went in early 1991, what did you see on your televisions in America? You saw General Norman Schwarzkopf go daily and give briefings to the American people. What happened when we saw the second time? What happened after 9/11 with Afghanistan? Don Rumsfeld going up at the Pentagon lectern. We have heard almost nothing from the administration on a daily basis with updates to the American people. We do not know the extent of the damage to U.S. embassies that are in the Middle East. We do not know the status of the amount of munitions that have been used. We do not know the true number of American service members that have been injured, flown to our base in Germany, or even back home to the U.S. that have been casualties in this war. We still do not know why key sites in some of our allies were not up-leveled and hardened before some of these drones came in. There were a lot of questions American people want, a lot of questions journalists are asking, and we're not getting the answers.
Because you're not dealing with a politician. You're not. President Trump is talking every single day to the press. No, because do you know what? Politicians have not really served people very well for that many years, Jonathan. It doesn't matter what country you're in. What you and I would agree with is that countries all around the world have not been, the normal people on the street have not been serviced very well by what we would call establishment politicians. A chaotic character.
Bev, surely, okay, fine, then you can agree on something as well. And this is important because Donald Trump may not be a politician, but he was elected to political office, and he was elected on a very, very clear pledge that anyone who could read or have ears could understand, which is no more forever wars, no war on Iran. Kamala Harris was the candidate of war in Iran, let's not forget. She would dispute that, by the way, but that's what she was painted as by Republicans. J.D. Vance was saying he was against the war in Iran. He was saying that the Europeans should have opposed the US when they went to war in Iraq, which is also folly. And the US people voted for that man.
Let me just bring in Paul Cox. You've been sat there very quietly watching us slug it out. Go on, what do you want to say?
I think Bev and I are watching different news outlets than everybody else here. I'm seeing, by the way, Jonathan, when I get home tonight, we're not having snuggles, I'm having stern words. I don't like the way you've been talking to Beverly.
You always talk to me like that.
Yeah, I know, it's okay, I love Jonathan. Much to the disdain of all of the GBNews family, as it turns out. But I think that Donald Trump was right to go into Iran. It's obvious that his rhetoric, the way he goes about it, is difficult in the conventional sense to defend because there is no paradigm or benchmark to measure it against. Mark pointed out every conventional response to a US war since 1991. This is different because it's Donald Trump and he's not the convention. So I wouldn't expect to see that. It is what we're used to. I don't want to deny what Jonathan's saying in terms of, you know, there is massive opposition to this, and Reem was saying the same thing. I get that, and I have a different view to this, and I know you do, Bev. But the idea that we expect to measure Donald Trump by some conventional or, I don't know, established paradigm, for me, is just discredited.
The convention, the only convention I'm asking for, Paul, is that he says something that we can believe. That's literally all I want. Just let him say something and let it be true. That's the only convention. That's how low the bar is. If you say no more forever wars, fine, let's not have any more forever wars. If you say no more war in Iran, let's not have any war in Iran. Why is that such a difficult bar, a difficult standard for you to agree with?
I don't think we've got a forever war.
When people... I don't think this is a forever war. I don't think there's any suggestion it's going to be a forever war. No, he's not said no more wars. He said America first.
He said Bev, he said during the election campaign that they would not get involved in a war in Iran. Let's be very clear about that. He has gone against a very, very clear, crystal clear election pledge.
The logic
this is America first,
there
by
was
the
an
way.
imminent attack. This is America first. If Iran was able to develop the nuclear capabilities based on the fact that they wish death to all of us, remember that, all 5 of us here, the mullah in Iran would happily see the obliteration of all of us.
So why didn't he do it? Why didn't he do it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Why didn't they do it in the 70s? I mean, this is really the question here. If Iran genuinely was a credible threat now, what changed? We haven't got those answers.
Well, because they have had breaks on their military capacity. They have. They did have under Obama. I accept that. That's what I'm saying. I do accept that there was breaks on it. But the fact that we are now 6 weeks into this, and I think the one thing that has surprised the American military is quite how strong the Iranian military was. They weren't being completely honest about the capabilities that they had. America has been surprised by how strong they are. We don't know at the moment what they're receiving from Russia, whether Russia is keeping them afloat with influx of drones. Perhaps it is. Let's hope it isn't, because this is going to go on for a lot longer if they are. We have gone on for long enough, though. Thank you all. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. We will no doubt talk another day. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
Today, we're launching our campaign for Yes, Sex Please, We're British. We want to get the whole of Britain talking about sex. And we're making the summer of 2026 the summer of sex.
The first step is we want to hear from you.
Well, this is what you call a gear change. That Labour MP, Mrs Niblett, is planning to make 2026 the summer of sex. She's pushing for what she says will be more open and inclusive approach to sex education. Don't our young people have nothing but sex education? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A messy mix today. It's not as cold out there as yesterday. Certainly across the east you'll notice a milder start. In the east, well, staying largely dry, but rain in the west is moving that way through the day. Some heavy bursts this morning for Pembrokeshire, Devon, Cornwall. That'll push its way across Northern Ireland into western Scotland. A few showers in the eastern areas, but much of eastern England I think will stay dry until later on. That rain creeping into northwest England, the Midlands and more central parts of southern England this afternoon. Either side, it should brighten up. Quite cloudy out there this morning. May see some sunny spells and quite mild in the east. Could get to 18 degrees in a few spots if the sun does come out. It is quite blustery and gusty though, so it certainly doesn't feel all that mild when this rain band does come in. And it will get into the southeast and East Anglia as we go through this evening's rush hour. Further west, something a bit brighter, but a few blustery showers zipping in on a fairly brisk wind, which will bring a fair few showers to Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones here, the chance of the odd rumble of thunder. Same goes for western Scotland. Some heavy downpours likely here come the end of the day as that weather front moves its way up across northeastern Scotland, tending to fizzle out as it does so. Clearer skies then follow for many during the first half of the night at least, but look at the showers still coming in across Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. Showers too for parts of Wales and western England through the second half of the night, but much of the east will stay dry. And again, a pretty mild night, certainly a lot warmer than nights earlier in the week. On to tomorrow morning, and again it's a fairly grey start. Again there'll be quite a few showers through the day, particularly for Scotland. Frequent showers coming in here and for Northern Ireland. The showers more scattered across England and Wales. Decent chance here. Most of the day will be dry, particularly across the far north of England and along the south coast as well. Some sunny spells developing. Still quite breezy, but still quite mild with temperatures in the mid to high teens for many.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back. Lots of your messages coming in. This is quite a funny one. Drew says, what sort of sex education are Labour proposing when they don't know what a woman is? Good point. Well, this is because the Labour MP, Samantha Niblett, is planning to make 2026 the summer of sex. She's pushing for what she says will be a more open and inclusive approach to sex education. Have a listen.
Today, we're launching our campaign for Yes, Sex Please, We're British. We want to get the whole of Britain talking about sex. And we're making the summer of 2026 the summer of sex.
The first step is we want to hear from you.
Oh, can we not? Do we not have to, please? This is the MP for Derbyshire North, and she's calling for greater understanding on areas such as consent, fair enough, preventing abuse and violence, as well as having more candid discussions on sexual health. Now, some of the more eye-catching details include plans to arrange 2 events in Westminster. One on which she intends to bring sex toys into Parliament. I've gone all Mary Whitehouse here. So is this new campaign breaking taboos, or is the government just trying to get into your bedroom? With me now is sex therapist, God forbid, Ilana Grimes. Ilana, I'm very torn about this, Ilana. I find myself, this is where my old-fashioned kind of liberal tendencies start to, I was going to say, rub up against my more kind of middle-aged conservative values, and I don't know where I sit on this, Ilana. So let's straddle this conversation together. I've got a lot more of these. What's going on here, Ilana? Do we need what problem?
They're really, you're doing.
I know. I have a lot of them. What problem does this MP think she needs to solve? What is wrong with the landscape around sex in the UK that this MP feels we need to be talking more?
I think that Niblett is really addressing a lot of the issues that we're seeing right now with regards to porn and how many young adults are viewing porn as education and not performative. And so I'm sure she's using this campaign as a way to combat that, but also bring young people into the conversation about what it is they're consuming and what it is that sex education really is versus what pornography shows us that sex is.
And do you know what is the evidence on this, Ilana, in terms of if you give young people, if you give children actually age-appropriate information about their bodies and relationships and fertility, for instance, and reproduction, does that demonstrate that they will grow up to have a better understanding of sex? Or does it mean they will have sex earlier? Because that's often a parental concern.
No, so the studies have shown that the more we have age-appropriate conversations with young people about sex, the less likely they are to experience sexual shame later in life. And they have a more healthy understanding of what sex looks like, what it looks like to give consent, and also have relationships where that is the norm. So I think this initiative really, I think for London or for England as a whole, can help younger people have a better understanding of sexuality, consent, what porn is, what porn isn't, and hopefully changes the conversation around sexuality and normalizes that across households.
I do wonder whether, and please tell me, could you imagine an American politician, a congressman or woman or a member of the cabinet here in America coming out and making this an issue to talk about and taking sex toys into Parliament, for goodness sake? That feels like a step too far, doesn't it? What's she doing? Could you imagine that happening here in America?
I cannot imagine it, but I kind of wish it would happen. And the reason that I think that she's going about this in such a performative way is that it's really bringing attention to the issue at hand. And so, yes, she's leading with sex toys and it's getting people's attention. But if that is the beginning of the conversation, why not lead with sex toys to start the conversation about how we need to be better educating individuals about sex, sexuality, consent, porn, and all the issues that we're finding? If that leads to a decrease in shame across the nation, why not? And yes, it would never happen here. No one would bring sex toys into Congress. But I also think it's about the way that sex toys have been stigmatized. They're not pleasure products. They're sex toys, as in, we talk about wine all the time. Those are also pleasure products. Why is wine or alcohol viewed differently? And so I think it's about changing the conversation about sex toys in general. Sex toys obviously are part of the performative nature of this campaign. Yes.
The thing is, Ilana, I think there is space in life for a little bit of shame. Sometimes I think I'd quite like to bring back shame as a common emotion, because shame stops people behaving in a way that is socially unacceptable, that can be damaging to themselves and their sexual and mental health. We've moved to a place where we try to avoid shame at all costs, but shame is quite a good emotion at curtailing the worst of human behaviour. What's your response when you hear me say that?
I don't disagree. I think that there are places where shame needs to exist. But I think that in my office, especially, I see a lot of individuals who are dealing with sexual shame because they've been taught about sex through the lens of shame. So talking about sex through the lens of you're going to get an STI if you have sex, or God is going to smite you, or all of the other ways that individuals are taught about sex through the lens of shame. So is shame inherently a bad thing? No. Could society use a little more of it? Potentially, on who you ask. But I don't think that this campaign inherently is wrong because it is calling for a decrease of shame in this specific category.
Yeah. And she talks, our MP, Mrs. Niblett, I'd never heard of her before, but she's just got the name that is just so perfect for this story, hasn't she? Nominative determinism right there. She, Ilana, is talking about having a healthy sex life, like also into older age, I think is one of the things she wants to talk about. And I'm interested to know from you as a sex therapist, are you finding that you have older people come to you for treatment and help with issues which for previous generations, they would have just given up on it and said, that's it, my sex life is over now, and I'm going to take up knitting or something. Are you finding you're getting more elderly people come to you?
I do. I do have a lot of peri and postmenopausal women who are increasingly seeking sex therapy, which is such a win because they're seeing that their bodies are changing post-menopause and they want help to enjoy something that they used to enjoy, and now it's becoming a little more difficult. I also see couples who are aging together who are finding it difficult to experience pleasure in their new novel bodies and also having a really hard time talking about that change. And I celebrate that. The 65 plus community has definitely come to sex therapy, and they're open to hearing about pleasure products, about lube, about using estrogen. And I welcome that because we should all be able to enjoy pleasure in our bodies at every stage of life.
Oh, Ilana, I bet you've got some stories. I could have talked to you all night, but unfortunately I've got to get reaction from my panel as well. Thank you so much for joining me, sex therapist in California, in LA there, Ilana Grimes. Thank you. Oh, Paul Cox. I've got to come to you on this first, I'm afraid. I want to know what you think of MP Niblett making this an issue of hers as we go into the summer and encouraging everyone to have a summer of sex. She's playing on this idea of like, no sex please, wear English. She's saying more sex please, wear English. My initial thought was, has she not got anything better to do? She's an MP. You can't get your garden bins emptied, for goodness sake.
Exactly, Bev. No, she hasn't asked us consent whether we want a summer of sex. So, you know, she's just forced this upon us. Apparently now we're all having a summer of sex. So I'm just going to have to get a little fitter. Ilana, by the way...
It gets you fit.
Yeah, it does get you fit. It does. Look, Ilana said something very interesting. You know, we're just talking about pleasure here. We talk to people about wine. I talked to my nan about wine. I never had one conversation with my nan about, you know, sex toys. Not once, Reem, did I ever have that conversation.
No. I did, yeah, that did occur to me, Paul, when she said, you know, wine gives us pleasure and we talk about wine. Why don't we talk about sex?
I don't want to. I don't want to. I think the main thing is, look, we all can agree, sex is amazing. It's great. It's fantastic. I grew up in a very conservative Muslim household where, like, we talked about sex very openly, but it wasn't something you could do until you were married, and that was very clear. My parents are very moderate about it. They could have a conversation, but again, it is something that is private and taboo. The question is it a politician's job to start talking to the British public about sex? Now, I'm all supportive of this. It is a pro-natalist push. Guys, the fertility rate is down. We need to have more babies. Go and have some sex. That's great. But we know that young people aren't really having sex. They're also not really drinking. I think a lot of it is actually the problem that politicians make it a bit stale.
Yes.
I don't know.
That's a good point. The irony, they're taking away all the fun, Mark, in the UK. We've got politicians. No one can afford to buy a blooming bottle of wine anymore.
Or a sex toy. Or the do you know how expensive these sex toys are these days?
No, I've got no idea. I've got absolutely no idea. Why would I know such a thing? No idea. I haven't got a clue. Couldn't ballpark it. But Mark, we've got politicians in the UK taking away all our pleasure, and then here they are saying, why don't you all just go out and spend the summer rolling in the grass or whatever it is. Go on.
Do you know, Bev, my first live shot was in 1997, and this is the most awkward conversation I've had in 30 years on television.
You say you haven't got a little rabbit vibrator at home?
But I will say that in my commitment to the facts, Bev, you mentioned that can you imagine something happening on Capitol Hill in the U.S.? And actually, yes, it did. In 2023, there was a former Senate staffer who says that he filmed this sex act in a hearing room.
Oh, my word.
He's no longer there.
And on that bombshell, we need to move on. Coming up in the next hour, this.
I said to him, Mr. President, you keep talking about the war like was. I said, is it over? He said, it's over.
Well, is the Iran war over? That journalist seems to think so. She's spoken to President Trump just this afternoon. More on that after your weather. A bit hot in here.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A messy mix today. It's not as cold out there as yesterday. Certainly across the east you'll notice a milder start. In the east, well, staying largely dry, but rain in the west is moving that way through the day. Some heavy bursts this morning for Pembrokeshire, Devon, Cornwall. That'll push its way across Northern Ireland into western Scotland. A few showers in eastern areas, but much of eastern England I think will stay dry until later on. That rain creeping into northwest England, the Midlands and more central parts of southern England this afternoon. Either side, it should brighten up. Quite cloudy out there this morning. May see some sunny spells and quite mild in the east. Could get to 18 degrees in a few spots if the sun does come out. It is quite blustery and gusty though, so it certainly doesn't feel all that mild when this rain band does come in. And it will get into the southeast and East Anglia as we go through this evening's rush hour. Further west, something a bit brighter, but a few blustery showers zipping in on a fairly brisk wind, which will bring a fair few showers to Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones here, the chance of the odd rumble of thunder. Same goes for western Scotland. Some heavy downpours likely here come the end of the day as that weather front moves its way up across northeastern Scotland, tending to fizzle out as it does so. Clearer skies then follow for many during the first half of the night at least, but look at the showers still coming in across Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. Showers too for parts of Wales and western England through the second half of the night, but much of the east will stay dry. And again, a pretty mild night, certainly a lot warmer than nights earlier in the week. On to tomorrow morning, and again it's a fairly grey start. Again there'll be quite a few showers through the day, particularly for Scotland. Frequent showers coming in here and for Northern Ireland. The showers more scattered across England and Wales. Decent chance here. Most of the day will be dry, particularly across the far north of England and along the south coast as well. Some sunny spells developing. Still quite breezy, but still quite mild with temperatures in the mid to high teens for many.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m.
Court mornings.
To warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Live from Washington, DC, good morning, good evening. This is GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and the United States of America. Breaking tonight.
I said to him, Mr. President, you keep talking about the war like was. I said, is it over? He said, it's over.
Is the Iran war over? That journalist certainly seems to think so. She has just conducted an interview with President Trump this evening. I'll bring you the full clip in just a moment. Also tonight.
Honestly, it was sort of a shrug of the shoulders, right? And it's nice that countries are thinking about what to do when the war is over, when we've done the tough work.
It was a shrug of the shoulders. That was Morgan Ortagus in our interview earlier. She was reacting to President Emmanuel Macron and the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer joining forces on Friday to map out a plan to secure the Strait of Hormuz once the fighting is over. Too little too late, she says. I'll bring you more of that interview next. And breaking in the last few moments, the Duke of Sussex has said that parents must adapt as social media reshapes family life during a visit to men's mental health charity in Australia. This is part of their Down Under tour with wife Meghan, or Meg, as she now asks people to call her. We'll be getting stuck into that. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. No adverts, remember. So potentially some huge breaking news has just dropped in the last few moments. Have a listen to this.
I just left the president. It was a great interview. He said a lot about the economy, about the Iran war, about NATO. One thing that I'll leave you with, I said to him, Mr. President, you keep talking about the war like was. I said, is it over? He said, it's over.
That was Fox News presenter Maria Bartiromo promo there in the White House garden, teasing the interview with the president that's going to be transmitted early tomorrow morning America time. Is the war then over? Was this Trump announcing it? I doubt it. Let's have a listen at a snippet of the interview.
I had to divert, because if I didn't do that, right now you would have Iran with a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you would be calling everybody over there, sir. And you don't want to do that.
Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly.
So he was talking to Fox News there. Fox Business actually is. It's going to go out tomorrow morning. I have still got in the studio with me, I'm delighted to say, award-winning journalist and the founder of the media advisory experts, Mark Albert, and writer for Reasoned magazine, Reem Ibrahim, and Paul Cox in London. Let's go to this idea that he said in this interview, the war is won. Reem, what do you make of it? I think I know what's going on here. Yeah, go on, you go.
Well, it's not the first time he said the war is won, so it obviously hasn't been a won. And, you know, Trump said last week it's been a won. He said right at the beginning that Iran's military has been completely wiped out. Obviously, none of those things are true, and the war is still continuing. If the war had been won, the Strait of Hormuz would be open, and every other Western leader would be celebrating about that fact. It clearly hasn't been won. This war is not over.
Isn't the point, Paul, that what winning looks like here, for him, he said he wanted to degrade the military categorically. That is what Caroline Leavitt's been saying. That is what JD Vance has been saying. By that definition, he might be right that the war, in his terms, has been won, if you like, from the American point of view. It was Tulsi Gabbard who said a few weeks ago that in terms of deciding who runs Iran, that was more of an Israeli preoccupation as opposed to an American decision to be made. So what do you think he might mean when he says the war is won?
Well, first of all, I think Mark will be pulling out that piece of paper and writing down the latest thing at the end of the list. I'm sure he's doing that now.
I already did. Look, I just did it.
Well done. Look, one thing I will say is Donald Trump, the person talking to us or the US public is JD Vance at the moment. Trump is not talking to us. Trump is talking to whoever is listening in Iran. He's doing that constantly. Right. This is not about him telling the Fox News reporter or you and I what's going on. He's talking directly to the Iranian regime, given what's being said on a day-to-day basis post the attempts at peace talks. So I wouldn't take this on face value. Now, if you're a Trump dissenter and you don't like what he's doing at all, you're just going to take that once again as him being entirely confused, just another load of Trump nonsense, and we should dismiss everything he said. That also is part of his plan, is what I'd say.
Mark, you respond to that, because we touched on this in the previous hour, that you think he should be talking to the American people first and foremost. That is his job as the leader of America.
Well, what Paul mentions is very astute in that every president has talked to a broader audience than just the domestic one. Often there are messages that are sort of going over the heads of some people that are intended for other audiences in other countries around the world. So absolutely that is the strategy. Not quite sure that the president is confused. What I pointed out from this list of comments, March 9th, the war is ending almost completely. March 22nd, Iran is dead, and now April 14th, very close to over. It is a promise that does not become fulfilled. And so it's this lack of specificity that I think a lot of American people find uncomfortable.
We didn't say yet. I think...
No, but I'm saying yet.
You are. Trump isn't. Trump hasn't said yet. Trump has not said...
But you can't say yet, because you're in a negotiation. You just can't.
But he's saying that the war is over constantly, and unfortunately the American people are going to be listening to this. They are going to be saying, oh, the war is going to be over. How brilliant. No more American taxpayer money being wasted on this foreign conflict that we did not vote for. Oh wait, the war is not yet over. I think what's interesting about this is Trump is probably doing this intentionally. you know, there is a sort of the tactic of just saying lots and lots of things, and it's so muddled that nobody can understand what's truly going on, including the Iranians, but it also includes the American people. I think the American people deserve better. And no, I'm not somebody that has Trump derangement syndrome that just hates everything Trump does. I think Trump's done some amazing things like the end of woke and reducing government inefficiencies and trying to cut spending. I think Doge was great. Trump has done some amazing things.
If
this
he
war is
can,
not one of them.
If he can secure peace and prosperity in the Middle East that we have not seen in our lifetimes, that will make his war on woke look so trivial. You won't believe you even said that on live TV.
I don't believe that we are going to see peace in the Middle East, unfortunately, Bev, and I don't think that Trump is going to have anything to do with it if it does.
Why?
Because Trump has invaded Iran, gone into this country and said, actually, we're going to get involved. Lots of other countries won't be very happy. We also, look...
No, because the other countries in that area at the moment all hate Iran because of this. He's managed to bring together with a joint adversary, largely because Iran started to bomb its previous allies, which was, frankly, the best thing they could have done to bring the other Middle Eastern countries together.
Are we going to see a regime change? I mean, look, I'm very happy that the Ayatollah is dead. But are we going to see are we going to see democracy in Iran? Are we going to see Iranian women be able to walk freely without being forced to wear a hijab or be killed? I don't think that's going to happen as a result of this war.
But why not? Because I think that will be the end of the war. It has to be the result of the war.
If you're right, then I will be very, very happy. But I don't think.
Me too. But it has to be the end of the war, and that is what I think is a very clear objective. What we don't know is how they're going to achieve it. The only way they can achieve it, Mark, is to take out everybody that goes to lead that country until somebody is in position that can work with America, and at that point it is job done. That person must exist.
You must say lots of those people have already, sorry I know you said Mark, but lots of those people have already left Iran. Sorry. Lots of those people have already left Iran. I mean, you know, the intellectuals, the journalists, the academics, you know, even the Shah, these people do not reside in Iran currently. If the aim is regime change, which I don't believe it is, if Trump is saying the aim is regime change, then you will end up having to have American boots on the ground, go in there, get the job done and liberate the Iranian people. I don't think that's currently what's going on though, Bev, is it?
Okay, well, let's hope it is. I mean, every Iranian that I have in this studio is cheering on America and Israel more than the Americans and the Israelis are doing. That's what I find remarkable, particularly the Americans, maybe not the Israelis, but the number of Iranians I have in this studio who just got their hands together praying that Trump can do the right thing by them and the Persian people and their history and the country that they want to live in. Let me talk now to a quick guest. Sorry, Mark, we didn't get in. Your chivalry meant that Reem stole your time there, but we've still got another 50 minutes to go. With me now is Senior Director of Government Relations at FDD Action, Connor Pfeiffer. Good evening, Connor. Tell me your thoughts on this situation in Iran as we sit here now 41 days into the war.
Well, Bev, it's great to be with you. I think we need to first look at what has the president done in the past couple days. So a blockade serves two purposes, right? It provides some potential relief for the global economy if ships start transiting through the strait, and all indications are in the last 24 hours. U.S. is reporting more than 20 ships have transited the strait. That's not back to pre-war figures, but it's a significant improvement from the heat of the conflict before the ceasefire. And second, alluding to the discussion you just had with the panel, getting leverage. The Iranians went to Islamabad, were not willing to agree to U.S. red lines and conditions, and so you saw an effort to increase leverage. Iran is losing right now about over $250 million a day in exports that can't leave their ports. That's mostly oil, but includes other goods as well. And so every day that this blockade goes on, the Iranian economy, which was already in bad shape going into the war, continues to suffer.
And so this is a clever, strategic, non-violent action, in your opinion then, Connor, to block the Strait of Hormuz and to choke off the revenue supply to Iran?
It is, Bev, and I think it puts the escalation what we call escalation dominance in the American hands. And what that means is it's up to Iran to decide whether to violate the ceasefire and attack shipping that transits through the strait. You saw on Saturday, the same day that U.S. negotiators were in Islamabad, that 2 U.S. destroyers basically dared the Iranians to do something about the American destroyers going through the strait. They successfully went through the strait and then back out the strait without being attacked by the Iranians. And so now it's up to the Iranians to decide whether they want to violate the ceasefire, bring more military operations onto Iranian soil by attacking shipping. And in the meantime, the U.S. is able to slowly reopen the strait to global commerce.
We're hearing, Connor, I don't know how much of the show that you've caught this evening, but, you know, 2 out of 3 of my panelists here are basically making the case that President Trump had no democratic mandate to go into Iran. This is not what the voters wanted. He hasn't been clear about his ambition. He hasn't been clear about the metric by which success will be measured. And he hasn't been clear about who should run Iran after the bombing ends. What do you say to that long list of accusations that he's got no right to do this and he's getting it wrong?
Well, Bev, let's start with the objectives that the president laid out when these operations started, focusing largely on Iran's ballistic missile capabilities, destroying the Iranian Navy, degrading their nuclear program, which was already started under Operation Midnight Hammer last year. The U.S. has made significant progress on those objectives, but of course, regime change was never an explicit U.S. objective that the president's laid out. Then let's think about the broader strategic context. And I think ultimately something to remember here is the American people tend to judge presidents on success, right? And so, yes, you know, there's polls being taken right now showing whether the American people more broadly and also specifically supporters of the president support the operations in Iran. But I think it's premature to judge the results of this operation when things are still ongoing. You might still see a deal. The Strait of Hormuz very well could be reopening, getting rid of some of the economic pressures that are probably affecting public opinion. And of course, you know, if Iran decides to escalate or refuse to come to terms, you could see a restart in military operations, which could further degrade the Islamic Republic and put additional pressure on what I like to call the rump regime that's in place right now. So I think it's too premature to say what the American people will ultimately think of this conflict.
Let's watch again, Connor, if we can. Let's have a quick look at what this journalist has said this evening, who has sat down with President Trump this afternoon. She's from Fox Business, which I think is an interesting person to give an interview to at a time like this, because I think the White House are acutely aware of how this is affecting the economic landscape, not only in this country here in America, but massively across the UK, where it's incredibly expensive to fill up your car at the moment. We've got the IMF in town as well, of course, this week, the International Monetary Fund. There's a lot of eyes in this town at the moment talking about business and finance. Let's see what this journalist told the world when she came out of the interview.
I had to divert, because if I didn't do that, right now you would have Iran with a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear weapon, you would be calling everybody over there, sir. And you don't want to do that.
Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly.
I just left the president. It was a great interview. He said a lot about the economy, about the Iran war, about NATO. One thing that I'll leave you with, I said to him, Mr. President, you keep talking about the war like was. I said, is it over? He said, it's over.
See, that's interesting, because the clip there that we saw of the president rather contradicted what she said when he said, we've still got work to do, it isn't over. And then obviously elsewhere in the interview, he's obviously said the war is won, and that's the soundbite that the journalist has picked up upon. What do you think, Connor, will success ultimately look like? When can he say this war is over?
Well, Bev, as you point out, I think the president stood clear, but he thinks we're close, obviously thinking that the pressure that he's put on the regime could drive them towards a deal. But at the same time, there's still work to be done. In terms of what success looks like, if you look at what the administration and what the president laid out as our objectives, I think a key here will be reopening the Strait of Hormuz, ensuring that commerce can transit through there unmolested by Iranian armed attack. And then on the military element of this, look, we have to make sure that Iran can never get a nuclear weapon. The president's been very clear about that literally for decades. And so whether that requires additional U.S. and Israeli operations or whether they think they can address that problem through continued monitoring of the highly enriched uranium that's been kind of caved into mountains through Operation Midnight Hammer. There's ongoing, I'm sure, battle damage assessments to figure out, okay, how much of the Iranian missile industrial base or defense industrial base has been taken out? How many missiles do they have left? And so those decisions are going to be ongoing. And I think ultimately a call will be made based on, one, the willingness of the Iranians to negotiate. Two, is the Strait of Hormuz open, or are they continuing to constrain the ability of shipping to pass through that international waterway? And then three, on the nuclear question, can we prevent Iran from having a future breakout without additional military action? Or while we have the opportunity now, are there additional steps that need to be taken if they don't come to terms through some kind of an agreement?
Okay, Connor, thank you so much. Senior Director of Government Relations at FDD Action, Connor Pfeiffer there. Let me bring my panel back in here to continue talking about Iran. I do hope we're not going to be talking about Iran for months and months and months to come, Paul Cox, because the longer this goes on, the worse it is for everybody. We would all agree on that. Literally everybody. The Iranian people, the American people, the British people. In fact, I don't know who would benefit. I'd say the only people that does benefit keeps going on are people who build bombs, the military-industrial complex. They will make a lot of money by this going on for longer. What do you take from what you've heard from that clip tonight, Paul, with the journalist there from Fox Business?
Look, I think one of the things that the majority of people can agree on, that where we find ourselves now is not where we want to stay at all. It feels like America's gone in and started something worthy, to me and to you, Bev, I believe, not to everybody, of course. But that's not a finished job. And to everybody else, they can point to that and say, what a mess. I don't want to be talking about Iran forever, but what I do want is a job well done. We know what they're capable of. We saw what happened in Venezuela. Unfortunately, I think to complete the job, there will require some boots on the ground, which is warfare that nobody really wants. And that's the difficult thing for Donald Trump. I actually believe this is America first. I think if he's got Venezuelan oil and he's controlling Iranian oil and where it goes, and let's not forget, a lot of it goes to China, and this is about that. It is very much about that. If they can control where that goes, and at the end of his presidency, the Ayatollah, the IRGC, the Iranian regime is dead, and there is some level of control over Iran, plus the Venezuelan oil, he leaves America in the best shape internationally that they have been in since maybe the end of World War II.
Whilst also actually affecting the UK economy, the City of London. We ensure that Strait of Hormuz. We are massively financially invested in that part of the world. British Petroleum started because we had an agreement with Iran to have access to that oil. There is actually damage being done to the British financial system here, Mark. That is America first, very much so, by definition.
Well, you mentioned that almost nobody benefits, and I'll tell you who does benefit. Whoever is connected to the White House or in the White House, who keeps making amazing bets in the oil markets and the stock markets and the prediction markets, who have been, I think, 16 for 16 on trades, making huge bets just minutes and hours before.
Like Nancy Pelosi did brilliantly. You mean like that?
No, actually, this was about $170 million worth of winning trades. That's not Nancy Pelosi territory. That's unheard of territory. The person who tried to investigate from the SEC has now left the agency. That's who's winning.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, when political insiders are able to bet on things. I think it's, well, it's illegal, but also very, very moral. I think, you know, when we're talking about the war and whether or not we will see this longevity, I think it's going to be interesting to see if there is that debate about whether or not the war will actually end. And I've got to say, I mean, I think that Paul's right. If we want to see regime change, we're going to have to see boots on the ground, and no American wants that.
Why do we have to? Because my feeling is that there is an alternative here, which is that once the IRGC is sufficiently degraded, and one of the potential outcomes of blocking the straits is that they can't be paid. Having an Iranian expert in the studio last night was one of the most interesting insights I'd had, is that she said very soon they can't pay those soldiers, they can't pay those forces. That is when you start an uprising, if you choke off the wages of the people who were paid by the government. Yeah. At that point, can the people of Iran come out onto the streets and form a revolution?
That could take months, years. We don't know how much money the Iranian government have. We also don't know how much money they're able to print without collapsing the economy. You know, this, if we're hedging our bets on blocking the Strait of Hormuz, choking off the Iranian regime financially, I don't think that's a very good approach. I think when we're talking about energy security, though, and to your earlier point, Bev, about how much it affects the United Kingdom, I mean, let's be very clear about this. The fact that we have net zero and we have effectively choked ourselves off from the international market is abysmal. The government have purposefully and intentionally made energy so expensive. In the UK, petrol has been about double and triple, in some cases, the price of petrol in America before the war. Yeah. After the war, we're going to experience so much of this.
Yeah. Unless there is peace and prosperity in the Middle East, the likes of which we've never seen, and then guess what's going to fall through the floor? The price of oil for the West.
I think that's a fairy tale.
Before or after the midterms?
Hopefully before. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. The Duke of Sussex has said, as Harry, parents must adapt as social media reshapes family life during a visit to a men's mental health charity in Australia. This is part of his tour down under with wife Meghan, or Meg as she expects to be called now, or she says to be called. Harry has opened up about his therapy as well. What, again? That's next. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A messy mix today. It's not as cold out there as yesterday. Certainly across the east you'll notice a milder start. In the east, well, staying largely dry, but rain in the west is moving that way through the day. Some heavy bursts this morning for Pembrokeshire, Devon, Cornwall. That'll push its way across Northern Ireland into western Scotland. A few showers in the eastern areas, but much of eastern England I think will stay dry until later on. That rain creeping into northwest England, the Midlands and more central parts of southern England this afternoon. Either side, it should brighten up. Quite cloudy out there this morning. We may see some sunny spells and quite mild in the east. Could get to 18 degrees in a few spots if the sun does come out. It is quite blustery and gusty though, so it certainly doesn't feel all that mild when this rain band does come in. And it will get into the southeast and East Anglia as we go through this evening's rush hour. Further west, something a bit brighter, but a few blustery showers zipping in on a fairly brisk wind, which will bring a fair few showers to Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones here, the chance of the odd rumble of thunder. Same goes for western Scotland. Some heavy downpours likely here come the end of the day as that weather front moves its way up across northeastern Scotland, tending to fizzle out as it does so. Clearer skies then follow for many during the first half of the night at least, but look at the showers still coming in across Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. Showers too for parts of Wales and western England through the second half of the night, but much of the east will stay dry. And again, a pretty mild night, certainly a lot warmer than nights earlier in the week. On to tomorrow morning, and again it's a fairly grey start. Again there'll be quite a few showers through the day, particularly for Scotland. Frequent showers coming in here and for Northern Ireland. The showers more scattered across England and Wales. Decent chance here. Most of the day will be dry, particularly across the far north of England and along the south coast as well. Some sunny spells developing, still quite breezy but still quite mild with temperatures in the mid to high teens for many.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Breaking news. Depending on your definition of breaking news, the Duke of Sussex has opened up about therapy as part of his tour in Australia with his wife Meghan. This is during a visit to a men's mental health charity in Melbourne. And Prince Harry has said, "I knew that I had stuff from the past that I needed to deal with. Why do I get a sense of deja vu? I'm pretty sure we've heard this from him on multiple occasions. He said, for me, there's an element of choosing therapy because you have something or you think there's something that needs fixing. He said there's also the other piece of therapy, which is preventative and getting ahead of it. You don't have to wait until you're alive on the kitchen floor or lying on the kitchen floor in the fetal position. He also made comments on parenting and children's relationships with mobile phones. He said, obviously 40 years ago, there wasn't social media. That's just one example of conversations that are now happening in households between kids and parents that never existed between me and my parents. Let's go to royal commentator Lee Cohen. Lee, admirable statements, you know, great advice, and you know what, there may be a young teenage boy hearing that and it might make a difference to them. But is this who he is now? Is this what Harry does? Goes around the world talking about himself?
Well, Bev, this is exactly what he does. Let's face it, Australians didn't ask for the Sussex Circus to come to town, but they sure got it anyway. The former royal couple turned B-grade reality stars parachuted into Australia today for yet another in a series of fantasy royal tours with commercial and self-promotional aspects. The pair stepped away from royal duties in 2020, but now here they are back down under, as they were in 2018, playing dress up as royals, titles and all. And you mentioned Harry's discussion about mental health. They're also there. They headed straight away to the Royal Children's Hospital visiting sick children, alongside other stops like a women's refuge, all while working the crowd for the cameras. So, you know, they do indeed try to personalize any bits, but quite frankly, using the sick and the vulnerable as backdrops for their optics, that's the lowest form of self-promotion. And that's what this is really about. It's self-promotion, and all while riding on the royal titles from the family that they've publicly savaged.
Lee, that is a damning assessment of the situation, but it is very hard to pick any holes in what you've just said. The only thing I would say, just trying to be a little more, let's say, compassionate possibly at this point, and there's no danger of either of us drowning in the milk of human kindness when it comes to these two and what we think about them, but they could have gone out there and just pursued their business plans. They could have done these retreats that she's charging tickets for. They could have sold tickets to theatre tours, etc. Maybe we should give them a little bit of credit for wanting to raise awareness of some social issues. Maybe.
Well, indeed, Bev, but I think Australians, and this is what I read in the press, in the Australian press, they're asking, why are they here? The pair represent no government or institution. They only represent themselves. They seem to continue to exploit the goodwill from Harry's birthright, which, quite frankly, Bev, is the only thing that makes them compelling at all for the cameras. And, you know, they're happy to let Australian taxpayers foot some of the security bill for the privilege of spreading, you know, whatever message they're spreading. So I completely understand why they've had such a mixed reception. And whether you're in London or Washington like you are, or Melbourne or Sydney or Palm Beach, I think these kind of quasi fantasy royal tours, as I paint them, are really a very tone deaf and bad look for them.
I spoke last night on the show, Lee, about the fact that I was incredibly surprised, and maybe this is my naivety, on an Instagram story that Meghan posted over Easter. Literally, the kids were playing in the garden and painting Easter eggs, and you didn't see their faces, but she tagged them in those posts as Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet in this incredibly domestic, banal setting. And it made my blood run cold. In fact, I was so inspired by it, I wrote a piece about it for the GBNews website, which any of our viewers and listeners can choose to read, because I was incensed at the hypocrisy of wanting to not be seen as a royal, but giving your children these titles which they clearly use. For what purpose, Lee?
Well, as I said before, really the titles and Harry's birthright are the only things that really make them interesting or relevant. We've heard from Hollywood executives. Some have said that they're talentless. Some have noted their scant commitment to productivity. Some in Hollywood have called them grifters. And it certainly seems that that's what, Bev, that's what this particular tour is all about, because they're mixing these things that seem humanitarian with high price tag invitations to line their pockets. And that is so absolutely polar opposite for what the royal family, who are the world's most gracious public servants and devoted public servants, are all about. What a bad fit they were for the royal family.
And just a quick word from you, Lee, on the news we've had broken this evening about, we've got a few details about King Charles' visit to DC in a couple of weeks' time, week after next, I believe it is. He's going to be here in DC, he's going to go to Virginia, he's going to go to New York. How do you think that is going to play out on the American stage, Charles and Trump?
Well, quite frankly, Bev, the royal family are the absolute best ambassadors for Britain. They allow Britain to punch above its weight, and we as a third party, as a non-monarchist third party, don't hold some of the views and, personal prejudices that many have. Many don't agree with the king in Britain on some of his ideas on climate change, ideas on religion, and he's often criticized for that. But we don't see that in the United States as much. We see the classical bits of monarchy, the pomp and circumstance. And quite frankly, I had the pleasure of meeting the Queen on the 2007 state visit to Washington, which was one of the greatest experiences of my life and really launched my interest in being a royal commentator. And having said that, I can tell you that meeting the British monarch is the most sought after diplomatic meeting in the world. Everyone shows up, everyone wants to go. So Americans will receive this very well, whether in New York or Washington or Albuquerque. So
brilliant. Thank you, Lee. Well, we will get you on closer to the time to recall that story where you met the Queen. I would love to hear that. Let's do that nearer the time, Lee. Royal commentator Lee Cohen there. My panel are still with me, of course, Mark Ream and Paul Cox. Let's have a little look at what else the Duke of Sussex has said this evening. He said that before the COVID-19 pandemic, he said fellow fathers were envious of his ability to work from home. He said, I'm fortunate enough to be able to work from home. And I say fortunate enough, sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. He added, pre-pandemic, others often viewed it as an ideal setup, saying, you work from home, that's fantastic. And then during COVID, it was like, well, this working from home thing is really not great when you have small kids running around, jumping into your meetings. I mean, he's right on that, isn't he, Paul Cox? At least he's being authentic about something. There's some truth.
Yeah, and let's not forget that there have been moments in Harry's past where he's been a tremendous asset to the royal family and himself. There were times in the long-distance past, pre-Meghan, BM, should we call it, where he was an asset to the royal family. What I will say is there isn't a therapist worth their salt that would advise Harry to do anything he's doing now. Not at all. Stepping away from the royal family, perhaps. Seeking desperately the limelight as a result of missing it is a massive, massive red flag. And the reason he's doing that is because Meghan, I don't know what we call her now, Meghan, she is, I don't know what the right term is, but she's absolutely obsessed with attention. It does, from the outside, look to me as if this is a marriage of her convenience. This is a man who needed to have a good woman. This is a man who lost his mother as a young boy. This is a man who had a lot of trauma in his life. And this is a man who needed a good woman. And unfortunately, he did not get one.
Oh, harsh. I tell you what, I hope if Prince Harry's mental health wasn't good before this show, hopefully he's not watching it after tonight, because it'll be terrible tonight. Mark, did you want to come in?
Can I just add a different perspective here? So in my role as a media coach and public speaking coach, I have the great fortune of working with the TED Talk coach to the stars, John Bates. He teaches celebrities before they give their TED Talks. One thing that John always says is to channel your inner insightful vulnerability. Not just vulnerability, insightful vulnerability that will resonate with an audience and that will convey to them that it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to have resilience, your inner resilience. When I see Harry talking about this, about mental health and about the help that he got in speaking and therapy, I actually think he's doing a textbook case of talking about insightful vulnerability, not just woe is me, but providing his vulnerability and giving insight that other people, Bev, as you said, maybe one person will say, I'm going to go get therapy out of this. I look at it in a different view, because this is how we coach people to talk about their failures, their traumatic moments, their setbacks, and then their pivot on how they were able to reach deep and find that resilience. So hats off to Harry for feeling like he can talk about it and not just saying his vulnerability, but making it insightful vulnerability.
Let me tell you why it doesn't land well with the British public. Because he casts himself as the victim. And the British public have looked at Harry with his privileged existence, and although we feel very sorry, and of course the heartbreaking images that none of us will ever forget of him walking behind his mother's coffin, he has now for many years, every time he has the opportunity, he seems to say, woe is me, things are bad, it is not fair, I was the spare, I didn't have the attention. He is perpetually failing to take responsibility, Mark, for his emotional well-being. And whereby therapy requires you to do the hard work, what we see from Harry is, I am vulnerable, I will tell you how I feel. I'm not actually going to go away and reflect upon it. I'm not going to do the hard work that might require me to one day reconnect with my family, from whom I am estranged and from whom my children are estranged from their grandparents. It's shallow. It's the polar opposite of good therapy.
Well, I am not an expert on the royal family, but what I can say is he did serve his country honorably overseas. I've embedded with U.S. troops. I see many troops do need therapy, do want to talk about it, do need help in dealing with their experience.
100%.
He obviously, with what happened with Princess Diana. So I guess as an American, I see these moments in his life where absolutely it could be helpful to talk about it.
Reem, come in on this one.
Yeah, Bev, I think you're absolutely spot on there. I mean, the images, I think, of Prince Harry as a young child behind his mother's coffin, nobody will be able to shake that. And, you know, I think everybody that remembers it remembers what it was like. And I think lots of people, the British public, remember Harry as that little boy. He's not a little boy, though, anymore. And I have to say, I think that a lot of it is, you know, Prince Harry probably is just not very clever and isn't very able to decipher what those feelings are like, or indeed go to the therapy that he needs to. I think Meg, or Meghan, or whatever we have to call her now, as Paul said, is pretty cunning, and I don't like her. I don't think that she is a good force for Harry. I don't think that she is a very positive person to be around. Her desperation for attention and her, you know, willingness. I mean, do you remember the Netflix show that she had, where she was sort of hiring people to be her friends? I mean, I think that Meghan herself is pretty abysmal, and I don't think that them as a couple are very healthy. But whatever. I don't really care. I just think that the relationship with the royal family ought to be mended, and I think that fundamentally airing your dirty laundry about your personal family relationships, or indeed your mental problems that have not yet been solved, isn't helpful to anybody.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, she should have carried on acting. When she married well, she'd have been fine if she'd just not accepted this idea that she was going to be a satisfied wife. She was ambitious, she was good, she's a good actress, she's amazing in suits. Yeah. She's brilliant at it. She should have had somebody, and Harry actually should have said, sweetheart, carry on acting. I will be the royal, you be my actress wife, fulfill your own ambition. Being part of this family is not not going to be enough for you. You're always going to lose your identity. And that's what, as soon as her identity started to go, she rebelled and she pushed back against the structure that she now doesn't mind her children carrying the names of. The hypocrisy, the shallowness, the lack of thought into this, I find utterly baffling. Right, moving on, let's have a look at some newspaper front pages, shall we? The Guardian are leading on. Iran conflict could spark recession, with Britain hit hardest in the G7. Now, that is in the IMF. I was talking to a source here in DC today who was at one of these conferences, and they were saying exactly the same thing. They said, brace yourself, there may be some very, very difficult financial times coming for the UK. The iPaper, UK economy, here we go, same story, takes triple hit from Iran war. This is lower growth, fewer jobs, higher cost of living, with Britain facing a bigger blow than any other major economy. All I would say is, if the government are reading these now, can you do something about it, please? You're getting a lot of warning straight from the IMF in DC. Do something. Help our pubs, help our hotels, help our hospitality, help our small businesses. This is coming down the line. You do have some power here. Prime Minister Starmer. President Trump's Iran war puts world on the brink of recession. That is the Independent. Same story there, and the picture of Harry and Meghan looking quasi-royal, as it says on the front page there on the Independent and the Mirror. Reeves' fury at Trump. No exit plan. No idea. This is Chancellor Rachel Reeves blasting America over the Iran war shambles and economic fallout. The Mirror would say that, wouldn't it? And the Daily Express are saying, wake up, Prime Minister, and honour the heroes hurt in the line of duty. This is former police officer urging the government to give injured 999 workers a medal. Classic Daily Express front page there. Off-piste, not going with the main story of the day, but absolutely appealing and talking to and representing the views of normal British people. The Times newspaper is saying that Reeves dashes hopes of boost to defence funding. And also, interestingly, the Times are the only newspaper that have gone with this at the top: signs of a compromise as US and Iran hint at fresh peace talks. What do they know that we don't? Daily Mail, we cannot defend Britain with an ever-expanding welfare bill. They say not the Daily Mail's words, but those of the ex-Labour Minister Starmer, tasked with writing his defence review and who's now lost all confidence in the dithering Prime Minister. And The Sun, who wants to be a billionaire? This is Lotto's £1 billion mega jackpot, £4 Powerball game for Brits. What a bizarre front page. That must be an advertising thing, Reem, right? They're getting some money.
Loads of money from that.
Who wants to be a billionaire? Possibly The Sun. Metro, arts chief thanks actor for bizarre insult. Cheers, Timmy. Now this, of course, is a Timothy Chalamet. He is an actor. He was in the movie about table tennis called... Come on.
Marty Supreme.
Well done. Thank you, Mark. Marty Supreme. And he criticised ballet, didn't he? He unintentionally made a public statement about different levels. I think it was about different art, different culture. And he sort of said, oh, who wants to go and watch the ballet? I don't know why, but it's obviously increased seats at tickets being sold at the ballet, which is marvellous. And JD Vance helped, we've done that now. OK, JD Vance dealt with a heckler at Turning Point USA this evening. Let's have a look.
To respond to this guy here, he said, I believe he said the administration supports a genocide in Gaza. And here's my response to that. When we came in, the humanitarian situation in Gaza was an absolute catastrophe. You know who's the person who got a peace agreement in Gaza? Donald J. Trump. So if you want to complain about what happened in Gaza, so if you want, sir, to complain about what happened in Gaza, why don't you complain about Joe Biden and the last administration? We're the administration that solved that problem. And by the way, not only was our administration like the administration that solved the problem, but the president. Excuse me, sir. Right now, you see more humanitarian aid coming into Gaza than it has any time in the past 5 years, because we have taken that situation seriously. And that's one of the things that I'm proud of about our administration, is whether it's there or Thailand and Cambodia, we have consistently tried as much as we can to solve these problems, not just complain about them like the guy who just ran away angry.
So that was JD Vance talking this evening. He was at a TP USA event. That was, of course, the organisation that Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk, headed up. Mark, when you see JD Vance talking like that, what do you make of it? I love his attack dog energy. I love it. I love it. He's one of these guys that when he's in the corner, he comes out swinging. And how amazing to be a resident of a country where someone will fight so hard for your country, for what you need like that.
Well, that is typically in the U.S. the traditional role of vice president is to be an attack dog on behalf of the administration. Certainly in the election season, I anticipate you'll see him on the campaign trail for the midterms as well. On Gaza, he said, who solved that? Well, it's not solved. Obviously, there is more humanitarian aid going in right now, but that area is absolutely devastated. I mean, that rebuilding would cost billions and billions of dollars. I have not seen a comprehensive plan for rebuilding Gaza that has the buy-in of everybody. President Trump started a board of peace, which is sort of this unaccountable, untied to some country organization that may or may not be funded. So absolutely, credit where credit is due.
Well, I mean, anybody that joined that had to bring a significant amount of money onto the border peace, as much as $1 billion.
And Donald Trump is president of it for life, regardless of whether he's president or not. I will say the crowning achievement, though, from the Trump administration, and no doubt what they wanted to build on in 2.0, is the Abraham Accords. Right? They wanted to expand that, the agreement with Israel and other countries in the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, what has happened in Iran has set that back, certainly for months or perhaps for years. But that was the crowning foreign policy achievement in Trump 1.0. What will be in 2.0?
There's no point rebuilding Gaza to be the Gaza Riviera until Iran has been demilitarized. Surely
it's not the Americans' job to start rebuilding every country. I mean, look, it's not the Americans'
Whose job is it? Who is going to go in there and rebuild Gaza for the Gazan people?
Nobody.
If not America.
Until there is a genuine state there, until there is a genuine nation in which there isn't instability, I don't think
it's not so easy in rubble, though. It's much easier in buildings.
Yeah, indeed it is, and it's very, very difficult to clear the area. There are obviously still a lot of devastation. I must say, I do quite like JD Vance. I think that it's interesting. It seems to me that everything he touches seems to die. I mean, he went over to Hungary before the election and said, make sure you all vote for Orban, and they all did not vote for Orban, which I find quite hilarious. But I think Vance is really quite charming. He has a brilliant story. The fact that he really did come from nothing and became something.
That's when he gets scrappy, and I absolutely love it. I genuinely, I think Rubio's deeply impressive as well, but there's something about the way Vance fearlessly takes on opposition like that heckler today, which is very, very special. Right, moving on, let's just talk, shall we, for a moment about the situation in the UK, because Lidl and Iceland have become the first supermarket brands to fall foul of tough new rules banning the promotion of so-called less healthy food. Now, this crackdown is part of the government's drive to tackle childhood obesity, with adverts for products high in fat, salt and sugar banned now between 5:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. on TV and online any time of the day. But these first rulings are already raising eyebrows, because while some products have been pulled from ads entirely, others appearing alongside them have been cleared. So where is the line drawn? Is it a necessary step to protect children's health? Every time I see that footage of someone dipping a chip in ice cream that we've just showed there, I just...
It's a milkshake.
Oh, but why would you...
They do it here in the US.
You put a dip a chip in your milkshake.
It's a French fry. And you dip it in your milkshake, especially if you go to In-N-Out Burger, which is the best burger chain in America. It's made on the West Coast.
I haven't had one yet.
In-N-Out's so good. In-N-Out's so good.
Other burgers are available, of course.
Well, it's a big McDonald's thing, but yeah, I mean, the fries thing I've seen on TikTok, people dip their fries in milkshakes. I think it's gross.
It's perverse.
Yeah,
it's perverse is what it is.
It's a crime. That should be banned. Not these ads, though.
I did not endorse it. I just explained it.
Paul Cox, should the government be banning adverts? And if they ban these adverts, will it make all these fat kids suddenly thin?
these adverts are going out on television channels that kids don't watch. If you've got, I mean, it doesn't make any difference, does it? I mean, I'm still buying Haribo. I'm 46 and I don't watch normal TV. I only watch GB News and YouTube. So I don't understand how I don't know, these governments, they love to control, but they have no idea about the people they're controlling.
Yeah.
Sure, do what you like, but it's not solving the problem. You could ban all adverts of all food and people will still eat, I guarantee it.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, this is nanny state rubbish. The government are effectively telling companies what they can and cannot advertise for the sake of public health, and yet there is absolutely zero evidence whatsoever that any of these regulations on junk food advertisement being, of course, a lot of these foods high in fat, sugar and salt, includes things like yogurts, it includes things like children's breakfast cereal. There is no evidence that it stops or indeed reduces the consumption of these goods. What it does show is that when you look at these situations, and the only thing that will improve public health is economic growth. And we've seen from all the front pages of the papers tonight that the economy in the UK is shrinking. Things are going very, very badly. The economy is stagnating. We know that things aren't going very well, and it's not just because of the Iran war, it's because the economy has been mismanaged by socialists. You do not improve public health by regulating advertisements, by telling us what they can and cannot do. You improve public health by making people richer.
Mark, Mamdani's just opened his first government-run food store this week in New York, and this socialist utopia in which the government will decide what you can and can't eat, what you can and can't afford. When you look at the UK banning adverts, do you get all warm inside and think, wouldn't that be nice here?
Well, I get warm inside because it's very warm in the studio right now. But I can tell you that I also reported in Minneapolis. I was an investigative reporter there. And in Minnesota, there are government-run, city-run liquor stores. And so this is not entirely a foreign concept in the U.S. that there are some governments that have stores of this nature. So is it going to improve health and outcomes and help in low-income neighborhoods? I don't know. But it is not unprecedented to do something like this in the U.S.
Of course it isn't going to help. Mamdani is spending about $30 million of taxpayer money in New York in order to create government-funded, government-run grocery stores. The way that you ensure that food is cheaper is you allow for free trade, you allow for competition in the market. This is just nothing but virtue signalling from a socialist mayor.
Mark, 10 seconds.
It's been so great to be with you. And you know, speaking of healthy food, what did I bring you when you were hungry? Almonds, right?
When
That's
I was nearly passing out, a bag of almonds, state-sponsored almonds bought.
No, I bought them for you, not the government.
Oh, thank you. Right, everybody, it's been wonderful. Thank you, Paul, so much. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Reem. Thank you all at home. We've done that thing again. We've still got more time at the end of it. Are we going to play the music any minute now? What are you doing tomorrow?
I am, what am I doing
We've got to
tomorrow?
change the end of this show.
Going to the office. You're
going to the office, marvellous. What are you doing tomorrow, Mark?
I'm getting ready for our media training public speaking boot camp here in DC next week. 4 seats left. Join us.
Oh, marvellous.
Amazing.
I will be back here. 7 o'clock UK, US, midnight over there. Bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A messy mix today. It's not as cold out there as yesterday. Certainly across the east you'll notice a milder start. In the east, well, staying largely dry, but rain in the west is moving that way through the day. Some heavy bursts this morning for Pembrokeshire, Devon, Cornwall. That'll push its way across Northern Ireland into western Scotland. A few showers in eastern areas, but much of eastern England I think will stay dry until later on. That rain creeping into northwest England, the Midlands and more central parts of southern England this afternoon. Either side, it should brighten up. Quite cloudy out there this morning. We may see some sunny spells and quite mild in the east. Could get to 18 degrees in a few spots if the sun does come out. It is quite blustery and gusty though, so it certainly doesn't feel all that mild when this rain band does come in. And it will get into the southeast and East Anglia as we go through this evening's rush hour. Further west, something a bit brighter, but a few blustery showers zipping in on a fairly brisk wind, which will bring a fair few showers to Northern Ireland. Some heavy ones here, the chance of the the odd rumble of thunder. Same goes for western Scotland. Some heavy downpours likely here come the end of the day as that weather front moves its way up across northeastern Scotland, tending to fizzle out as it does so. Clearer skies then follow for many during the first half of the night at least, but look at the showers still coming in across Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. Showers too for parts of Wales and Western England through the second half of the night, but much of the east will stay dry. And again, a pretty mild night, certainly a lot warmer than nights earlier in the week. On to tomorrow morning, and again it's a fairly grey start. Again there'll be quite a few showers through the day, particularly for Scotland. Frequent showers coming in here and for Northern Ireland. The showers more scattered across England and Wales. Decent chance here. Most of the day will be dry, particularly across the far north of England and along the south coast as well. Some sunny spells developing. Still quite breezy, but still quite mild with temperatures in the mid to high teens for many.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.